Chapter 3706. Chief of the Fire Beacon Pavilion did not send a direct message. The 9 powerful warriors had not shown up recently, which meant that they were on high alert. Any sign of trouble could alarm them. Therefore, Chief of the Fire Beacon Pavilion made some arrangements to have some conflicts with the god of death. The 2 universes were next to each other. Conflicts could not be simpler. One sent out a direct descendant and then he went to a universe where the god of death was. He raped and killed a young lady of a major family. The god of death was enraged and reported to the 9 powerful warriors. The 9 powerful warriors were agitated. Many things had happened recently and they were all trembling with fear. What was wrong with the young master of the Fire Beacon Pavilion? Why did he come here to make trouble? Did he want to see the god of death here? The 9 powerful warriors wanted to turn the matter into nothing. They sent a message to the Fire Beacon Pavilion, asking for an explanation or they would report to the Hall of Justice. Chief Patriarch of the Fire Beacon Pavilion replied that he was willing to settle the matter in private. This young master of the direct descendant was favored by the chief. The chief sent a message in person, asking Luli or Emperor Li to go over. He would hold a feast to apologize and give a satisfactory explanation. Since the god of death was in a precarious situation, he did not want to be involved. What about Emperor Li and the others when the chief of the Fire Beacon Pavilion invited them in person and Luli was not there? Should they send patriarchs over? That would be disrespectful to the chief of the Fire Beacon Pavilion. After a moment of discussion, Emperor Li and Emperor Yu went over in person. Emperor Li would not miss the chance to have a perfect warrior apologize in person. Now that Luli was not here, Emperor Li was treating himself as the boss. The 2 powerful warriors teleported to the Fire Beacon City and were taken to a luxurious castle. As soon as they entered, Emperor Li and Emperor Yu sensed something was wrong. Not only was the chief of the Fire Beacon Pavilion here, there were 2 other powerful warriors. Emperor Li and Emperor Yu were scared out of their wits when they saw the 2 powerful warriors. It was Gang Yu and Tong Sun. "Since you are here, come in and sit down," Gang Yu said. Emperor Li and Emperor Yu wanted to run but it was unnecessary. 3 perfect warriors were here and they were not Luli. No matter how they struggled, it would be futile. Emperor Li stared at the chief of the Fire Beacon Pavilion coldly and said, "Feng Yi, how dare you? Are you not afraid that Luli will wipe out your family?" "There's nothing I can do." Feng Yi sighed slightly and said, "If you don't come, I will die. What do you want me to do?" The 2 of them were here to deal with Luli, so there were more than 2 of them. "If you don't want to die, and if you don't want your family to be exterminated, please cooperate." Rustle, rustle, rustle outside the hall, Jin Yen showed up with the 4 consummate warriors. He walked to Emperor Li and said coldly, "Feng Yi is right. We are not targeting you or the god of death. We only want Luli's family. Either you die and your people perish, or you cooperate with us to take Luli's people away. Make your choice." Emperor Li and Emperor Yu's eyes flickered as they cursed Feng Yi's 18 generations of ancestors in their hearts. They were also hesitant in their hearts. Luli had built up his prestige over the years. Even though they were not convinced on the surface, deep down they were convinced. They were afraid of Luli betraying the Lu family. Afterward, Luli would slaughter them all. They all knew how cruel and ruthless Luli was. Luli hated betrayal the most. Once they betrayed him, when Luli came back, their families would be wiped out. There was no doubt about it. If they didn't cooperate, they would die right now. But their families might not be exterminated because their families were at their ancestral land. This was because their race was located in the ancestral land. If this group of great perfection deities could find the ancestral land, would they need to resort to such a scheme? They could just kill their way to their ancestral lands. Therefore, if they didn't cooperate, their families might not. Nobody wanted to die. They still had a long life ahead of them. If they could live, they wouldn't want to die. That was why they were hesitating. Seeing that the two didn't say anything, Jin Yen spread out his qi and energy, making it hard for them to breathe. Jin Yen said with killing intent, "Think about it. Lu Li will die for sure this time. What can you get out of helping him? Even without Lu Li, you can still survive with the abilities of the other leaders of the Grim Reaper. If you're stubborn to the end, with the power of the 7 of us, your Grim Reaper will be destroyed in a month." Emperor Li made up his mind and said, "Kill us. We will never betray Lu Li. We are willing to die." Emperor Yu said nothing. His eyes flickered. Jin Yen took out his supreme weapon and said coldly, "Since you are asking for death, then I will send you on your way. Later, I will kill all of you." Emperor Yu and Emperor Li trembled in the face of the killing intent from the consummate warriors. They didn't even think about fighting back. They couldn't hurt any of them, let alone so many consummate warriors. Jin Yen took out his saber. He lifted it up slowly. Death enveloped Emperor Yu and Emperor Li. Emperor Li closed his eyes, ready to die. Emperor Yu's face turned pale. All of a sudden, he shouted, "Wait, you said you will not hurt us and our families. Can you promise?" Emperor Li opened his eyes and glared at Emperor Yu. "Brother Yu, are you out of your mind? You are asking a tiger for its skin. How can you trust him so easily? Don't you know what Lu Li is capable of? If they could kill Lu Li, would they need to capture his family? When Lu Li comes back, our families will be wiped out. Ridiculous!" Right at that moment, someone scolded from outside. Beiluan walked in and said, "Let me introduce myself. I am Beiluan, the chief patriarch of the Bei family of the northern region. Lu Li is in the Ice River in the region of Universe. He is trapped by our family patriarch and King Kuan. There are too many divine patterns there, and it will take some time to solve them. Our family patriarch is losing his patience and has ordered us to capture Lu Li's family. Can Lu Li escape with his life when 2 realm masters are here in person? Don't you think you are overthinking? Chief patriarch of the Bei family of the northern region?" Emperor Li and Emperor Yu looked at each other in surprise. How many northern region and Bei family were there in the world? They were sure of Beiluan's identity. The fact that he could mobilize so many consummate warriors proved something. What was more, who would dare to pretend to be the chief patriarch of the Bei family? Was he tired of living? King Kuan and King Kuan? Emperor Li pondered these 2 names for a moment, and a bitter smile appeared on his lips. He had been to the immortal region. He knew what the 2 names meant. Lu Li was so influential that he could make 2 realm masters come in person? What was more, he was still alive. Emperor Yu gulped and said, trembling, "I need a guarantee. I need you to make an almighty oath." "I guarantee it," Beiluan said with pride. "Who do you think you are? To me, you are just puny insects. Is there any difference to me whether I kill you or not? My words are precious. As long as you cooperate with me in capturing Lu Li's family, I promise that I will not hurt any other warrior of the Grim Reaper. In short, are you willing to cooperate or not? If not, your 2 families will be wiped out." Once again, Beiluan used the method he used on Feng Yi. Emperor Li and Emperor Yu looked at each other and forced a smile. In the end, they lowered their heads, which they thought was noble. Emperor Yu cupped his fists and said, "Lord Bei, we are willing to cooperate." Chapter 3707 Star Sand Region. Inside an underground castle, Emperor Mo, the Winged King, and the Feather King were hiding here. The 10 leaders of the Grim Reaper were hiding separately. Besides the leaders, only a few elders knew that they were hiding here. They used the messaging altar to send messages. It was impossible to track them. Emperor Mo and King of Feather were drinking tea in the hall when King of Wings hurried in. He frowned and said with a piece of information in his hand, "Something is wrong." Emperor Mo and King of Feather put down their teacups and looked over. King of Wings explained, Our spies at the Fire Beacon Pavilion sent a message. They seem to have sensed some powerful warriors in the castle. They suspect they are at the consummate level, but that place is locked down. They cannot get close, so they are not sure. Several consummate level warriors? Emperor Mo and King of Feather were worried. Emperor Mo asked, "It is not normal for the Fire Beacon Pavilion to come looking for trouble at such a critical moment. Luli is not here and the chief of the Fire Beacon Pavilion sent an invitation. Is the chief of the Fire Beacon Pavilion being controlled?" King of Feather pulled a long face. If the chief of the Fire Beacon Pavilion is being controlled, then both Emperor Li and Emperor Yu are in danger. We are not safe here either. Let's go back to our ancestral land. King of Wings asked after a moment of hesitation. Now, if nothing is wrong, it will only take us some time to leave. King of Feather said, if something is wrong, leaving can save our lives and the lives of our people in our ancestral land. Let's go. Emperor Mo did not hesitate and King of Wings could not say anything else. He found 2 patriarchs and told them to make arrangements. Then, the 3 of them left on a secret teleportation altar. At the same time, they sent a message to the other leaders to return to their ancestral land as well. They said there might be changes, but they should not leak any information. As soon as they returned to their ancestral land, Emperor Mo ordered to seal off the entrances and exits. At the same time, he contacted those outside to gather information, especially about Emperor Li, Emperor Yu and the Fire Beacon Pavilion. Emperor Mo and King of Feather went to the city where the Lu family was. Whatever the case, the enemies must be coming for the Lu family because they were of no value to the enemies. Only Lu Li's family was of value. Lu Ling and Lu Renhuang came out to greet Emperor Mo and King of Feather in person. Emperor Mo cut to the chase. Can you contact Lu Li? Lu Ling and Lu Renhuang looked at each other. Lu Ling said, we can try. It has been some time since Lu Li contacted us. Get in touch with Lu Li now. Sovereign Mo said, we suspect that those great perfection deities have come again, and they might have taken control of the Fire Beacon Pavilion Master, as well as Emperor Li and Emperor Yu. Lu Ling could not afford to be careless. She crushed a jade talisman which was given to her by Lu Li. Usually, Lu Li would use some means to contact her as soon as he crushed it. Lu Ling waited quietly. Emperor Mo and the others waited nervously as well. About an hour later, there was no psychic power from Lu Li. Lu Ling's mind was weighed down. He must be occupied. He cannot contact us. Emperor Mo and Emperor Yu were a little anxious. Emperor Mo paced back and forth in the hall and said, no, you have to move. Move immediately. The core members of the Lu family should move first. If there is nothing else, I will inform you to come back later. Transfer? Lu Ling asked, is our ancestral ground not safe now? Transfer. Where are we going? I know of a secret realm. Emperor Mo said, I am the only one that knows about this secret realm. You, the core members of the Lu family, go in first. If there is no danger, come out later. If there is danger, you can hide in there. When you are safe, we will be safe. Do you understand? Sure. Lu Ling was a resolute person. She trusted Emperor Mo and Emperor Yu. Lu Li had told her that they could be trusted. She didn't think too much. She sent out an order to gather the core members of the Lu Alliance. The operation must be discreet. With a large number of people, they would be discovered easily. If they were tracked down, what was the point of running away? According to Emperor Mo, Emperor Li and Emperor Yu might be controlled. If so, the Grim Reaper would not trust them completely. Lu Ling gathered the senior leaders and told them to evacuate. Those who were willing to stay would stay, and those who were willing to leave would leave. In the end, most of the senior leaders of the Lu Alliance left. A small number were still worried and didn't think anything would go wrong. The ancestral ground was well hidden. Only the 9 leaders could find it. The senior leaders who stayed believed that Emperor Li and Emperor Yu would not be so stupid. If they brought enemies here, their families would be wiped out. There were more than 100,000 disciples of the Lu Alliance and hundreds of senior leaders. Lu Ling took with her more than 300 and the immediate Lu family members added up to 3,000. The 3,000 people all went into the interspatial artifact. Emperor Mo saw them off in person. When they were far away, Emperor Mo let Lu Ling and the others out. Lu Ling didn't let them all in the interspatial artifact. She only flew to the secret realm mentioned by Emperor Mo. Emperor Mo was the only one who knew about this secret realm. Unless Emperor Mo was captured and interrogated, they would be safe. Somehow, Emperor Mo felt relieved after seeing Lu Ling and the others out. He was well aware that for warriors at the ultimate realm of the immortal region, their lives and deaths were not important. Neither were their families. Lu Li's family and people were the most important. If Lu Li's family and people were captured, then there would be no need for them to exist. They would all be killed. On the other hand, if Lu Li's family and people were not captured, then the warriors of the immortal region would not dare to touch them easily. Also, if they were captured, they would not be a threat to Lu Li. Lu Li could take a gamble, and it would be easier for him to break out of this situation. Speaking of which, they were implicated by Lu Li this time. Emperor Mo did not have any complaint. Without Lu Li, the Grim Reaper would not be where it was today. Since they had gained so much, they had to bear some risk. There was no free lunch in this world. They were all in the same boat. They had to go through thick and thin together. Only by following Lu Li could the Grim Reaper grow stronger. Without Lu Li, the Grim Reaper would return to its original state and die a miserable death. King Mo had just returned to the ancestral ground when the Feather King and the Avian King came over. The Feather King had an ugly expression as he said, "According to the new analysis, there is an 80% chance that Fire Beacon Pavilion has several grand perfection experts. 2 hours ago, King Li and King Yu sent a secret message to gather several elders at Fire Beacon City. There is also a 70% chance that they are being controlled. It is no longer safe here." Emperor Mo smiled bitterly. "Let's move. Let some of our people go and preserve the seed of hope. Then, we will defend our ancestral ground with our lives and wait for Lu Li to come back. The world is vast and we have nowhere to run. Emperor you go out and take control of the situation. We will stay here." "Sure." Emperor Feather and Emperor nodded. It was difficult for all of them to run away. If Emperor Li and Emperor Yu betrayed them, then the enemy would have all the secrets of the Grim Reaper. Where could they run to? They might as well stay here and wait for Lu Li to come back. Chapter 3708. Over at the Fire Beacon Pavilion, Emperor Li and Emperor Yu gathered some trusted patriarchs to make some secret arrangements. Then, they were ready to take action. Bei Luan and Jinyan's goal was clear: to capture Lu Li's family and friends. As long as they could capture Lu Li's family, Bei Luan and Jinyan's mission would be accomplished. Emperor Li and the others would be safe. By then, Lu Li would die and there would be no more hidden dangers. With Lu Li's death, the god of death would decline. If they did not handle the situation well, the god of death would be wiped out. But that was a matter for the future. If they did not cooperate now, they would die and the two races would be wiped out. If the two races were wiped out, then the existence of the god of death would mean nothing to them. Something is not right. Emperor Li's heart was weighed down by the message he received from several trusted patriarchs. He cupped his fists to Bei Luan and said, "Lord Bei, we must act as soon as possible. Our information may have been leaked. The other leaders have all retreated to their ancestral lands. If we do not act now, they will all move away. It will be more troublesome to hunt them down." "What?" A glint of coldness rose in Bei Luan's eyes. He stared at Emperor Li and Emperor Yu with suspicion. Emperor Li said at once, "Lord, it is not us who leaked the information. Feng Yi has summoned us. There are many suspicious points. Do not forget where the god of death comes from. We are the best when it comes to intelligence, and we are the most sensitive when it comes to danger. It is normal that Emperor Mo and the others felt something was wrong and left early. Bei Luan stared at them and asked, "Are we going to the ancestral lands directly?" "Yes," Emperor Li said. "If they did not activate the formation at the entrance, it will be easy for us to go in. But if it is, it will be a problem. The formation at the entrance is not built by us. It is innate and strong. It will take us a long time to crack it open. Let's go." Bei Luan could not wait any longer. If Lu Li's family escaped, it would be a huge problem. He left the Fire Beacon universe with all the powerful warriors, Emperor Li, Emperor Yu, and the patriarchs. Feng Yi didn't follow them. It was only after they left that Feng Yi felt relieved. "Lu Li, I am sorry. I have no other choice." Feng Yi let out a long sigh. She stood in a daze for a while before saying, "Someone, summon all the elders. Prepare to carry out the Spark Plan." Spark Plan. An elder's expression slightly changed. This was a plan to prevent the Feng clan from being exterminated. Once this plan was executed, the young elites of the Feng clan would be sent into a secret realm. After that, the mystic realm would be sealed shut. There was no way to open the mystic realm. They could only wait for 5,000 years for the mystic realm to form another entrance. In other words, once this plan was carried out, the elites of the younger generation would be trapped for 5,000 years. They would bid farewell to the outside world and cultivate bitterly in the mystic realm. 5,000 years later, the youth of young people would no longer exist. For them, this was a very painful thing. Cut the crap. Feng Yi waved her hand and said, "Immediately gather all the elders to carry out this plan. There's no room for discussion, just carry it out immediately. This is my order, there must be no mistakes." After the elder left to pass the order, Feng Yi cast her gaze towards the air, her eyes filled with worry. This time, no matter which side won, Feng Yi felt that they would be in deep trouble. On this side, Bei Luan had snuck in. He obviously didn't want to leave any evidence and didn't want the other realm kings to have an excuse. Since that was the case, it was very likely that they would silence him and destroy the evidence. Especially when they saw Bei Luan. If Lu Li's side won, then Feng Yi's side would be in a worse situation. Given Lu Li's character, there would be no survivors of the Feng family. If they carried out the Spark Plan now, at least the elites of the younger generation of the Feng family could be saved no matter what. The Feng family wouldn't be wiped out. There was still hope for them to rise again. That mystic realm had accumulated a large amount of resources. The young elites could cultivate for thousands of years in there. Their realms would be quite good. After cultivating for thousands of years, many of them would be infinitely close to the consummate realm. If they could reach the consummate realm, the Feng family could rise again easily. The Feng family patriarchs were summoned. They didn't know what was going on and were confused. Several patriarchs even came to see Feng Yi. After receiving confirmation, the patriarchs had no other choice but to carry out the order. Feng Yi was at the consummate realm, their family patriarch. They couldn't disobey any of Feng Yi's orders. This was the absolute authority of a consummate realm warrior. The other patriarchs didn't dare to disobey. The Feng family took action urgently. The young elites were grief-stricken when they heard the news. Since they were called the elites of the young generation, they must be the direct descendants. They were the descendants of the ruler and could call the wind and summon the rain in the entire Death City. They loved prosperity and liveliness at such a young age. Entering the mystic realm to cultivate for thousands of years was worse than killing them. Feng Yi's order was the decree of God. It couldn't be changed unless you betrayed the Fire Beacon Pavilion. Immediately, groups of young martial artists were gathered and continuously teleported away through the teleportation altar. 70% of the young elites of the Feng family were sent away. This plan would probably take at least 2 months to carry out. Feng Yi estimated that Bei Luan might not be able to succeed in 2 months. Bei Luan and the others left on the spectral warship. The Death God's ancestral ground wasn't in a certain realm. It was in a dangerous place. If one wasn't infinitely close to the consummate realm, they would definitely die. Therefore, the Death God's ancestral ground was very well hidden. Even the Death God's top scouts couldn't find it. The warship was very fast. It only took them about 10 days to reach their destination. They entered a deserted world that was filled with toxins and powerful formations. There was also a powerful warrior of the Death God who was infinitely close to the consummate realm guarding the place. Since Emperor Li and Emperor Yu were here, the warriors guarding the place didn't dare to say anything. Even though Bei Luan and the others were in disguise, they didn't dare to ask any questions. Emperor Li teleported them away. They were teleported to another deserted world. When they left the deserted world, they saw a huge whirlpool outside. In the whirlpool, there was a horrifying gust of wind. There seemed to be lightning flashing in the whirlpool. It must be dangerous. Our ancestral ground is in there. Emperor Li cupped his fists and said, Lord Bei, I hope you can keep your promise and don't hurt our people. We are victims as well. We were threatened by Luli and there is nothing we can do. Don't worry, Bei Luan said coldly. What difference does it make to us if we kill you or not? We are only targeting Luli. It is meaningless to kill your people. I, Bei Luan, am the chief patriarch of the Bei family. My promise is valid. Thank you, Lord. Emperor Li cupped his fists and asked several patriarchs to stay here. Then, he flew into the whirlpool with a group of consummate realm warriors. The inside of the whirlpool was horrifying. Of course, it had no effect on the consummate realm warriors. They reached the center of the whirlpool easily. Emperor Li took a look inside. The entrance is sealed and the formation is activated. Lord Bei, there is no other way, or we must blast open the entrance if we want to go in. Bei Luan didn't waste time. He waved his hand and said, Blast it open. Remember the mobile website. Chapter 3709. The 7 absolute warriors were spinning with the swirl. It was not that they could not withstand the force of the swirl. It was just that they were too busy attacking to do so. After all, the swirl did not mean anything to them. Emperor Li and Emperor Yu were spinning as well. This was an eye-opener for them. The 7 absolute warriors were releasing all kinds of powerful attacks. The attacks of the Great Perfection Realm cultivators were simply too powerful. Just a casual strike from them was enough to shatter the heavens and rend the earth. That was because the formation at the entrance was strong. Otherwise, it would have been blasted open. By the looks of it, in 10 days at most, with the continuous attacks of 7 absolute warriors, the pattern would be blasted open. Once the formation was blasted open, the formation would be useless and the ancestral ground would be ruined. Regular patterns would be meaningless. Enemies could go in at will. What was the use of the ancestral ground? Of course, if it was Luli who was here to do the pattern, it would be meaningful. But things had come to this. If Luli could build the runes, would Emperor Li, Emperor Yu and the 2 races have a chance to survive? Either Luli died or they died. When they decided to betray Luli, there was no turning back. They would either kill Luli or their entire race would be doomed. Over the years, they were not happy with Luli. Emperor Li was disappointed that Luli had taken over the position of Emperor Li. With Luli's arrival, the Li family could gain more benefit. That being said, Emperor Li was still unhappy. It was impossible that the people inside could not sense the attacks from the outside. Several powerful warriors were near the entrance. They had received the news as well. They knew that Emperor Yu and Emperor Li had come with a group of absolute warriors, and they were outside. None of the 5 magnates looked happy. Apart from Emperor of Wings and another Emperor of Dragon, the rest of the 7 had come to the ancestral ground. The betrayal of Emperor Li and Emperor Yu pained them. They did not expect that Emperor Li and Emperor Yu would bring enemies to the ancestral ground. The first few powerful warriors had been with Emperor Li and Emperor Yu for many years. They had gone through so many trials and gone through life and death together. They did not expect that Emperor Li and Emperor Yu would choose to betray, and so thoroughly. Were they really that afraid of death? Emperor Yu was hot-tempered. Just now, he proposed to kill all the disciples of the two races. In the end, they were suppressed by Sovereign Mo. Now that things had come to this, the divine formation might not be able to hold on any longer. It was hard to say whether they would live or die. After killing the clansmen of Emperor Li and Emperor Yu, when the divine formation was broken, none of their clansmen would be able to live. If they didn't kill them, perhaps Emperor Li and Emperor Yu would spare their clansmen on account of their old friendship. Why isn't Lu Li back yet? Emperor Mo was getting anxious. Theoretically speaking, Lu Li would have contacted them as soon as Lu Ling crushed the Jade Talisman, unless he had no other choice. Lu Li had the ability to send messages over a long distance, even though Emperor Mo could not explain how he did it. It had been a long time, and there was no news from Lu Li. Emperor Mo and the others were frustrated. Was Lu Li going to leave this place alone? Even though the higher-ups of the Lu Alliance had left, there were still many disciples of the Lu Alliance here, 100,000 in total. Lu Li could not stand by and watch the disciples of the Lu Alliance being killed. As far as they were concerned, Lu Li was not dead, nor was he trapped. Otherwise, why would these consummate realm warriors capture Lu Li's people? Consummate realm warriors were proud. If they could, they wouldn't do something so shameful. If this was known to the immortal region, they would never be able to hold their heads up high, and they would be laughed at for the rest of their lives. Since Lu Li was not dead and he was not trapped, where was Lu Li? Had he gone to the immortal region to ask for reinforcements? It had been a long time. He should have come back by now, even if he had gone to the immortal region. They could go to the eastern region directly from here. What should we do if the exit is broken? A warrior asked. His words made the other warriors' hearts heavy. There were 8 consummate realm warriors out there. If he chose to fight, he would be courting death. Surrender? They would be betraying Lu Li and their own hearts. If they chose to fight, not only would they die, but their families would as well. Some of them had been sent out, but there were still many of them here. Let's wait and see. Emperor Yu sighed and said, if we can't do it, then let's bow our heads. As long as we don't have to do anything against our conscience, what's wrong with bowing our heads? If you force me to deal with Lu Li, then I choose death. Okay. Emperor Mo just said a word lightly and didn't say anything else. They were on good terms with Lu Li. It would be fine if they had to bow their heads. It was not shameful to bow their heads to a consummate realm warrior. But if they had to do something against their conscience like Emperor Li did, they would rather die. The ancestral land was large, but the population was small. Altogether, there were only 3 or 4 million. Inevitably, what happened outside spread out. The ancestral land was in a state of panic. The young disciples of the Lu Alliance were even more panicked. Lu Li's family had left. The only leader left in the city was the crippled Zen master. None of the higher-ups of the Lu family were to be found. There was only one entrance to the ancestral land. There was nowhere to run. They had to wait for their doom in the city. Many disciples of the Lu Alliance prayed day and night, but to Lu Li. To them, Lu Li was an omnipotent god. Now that they were facing a disaster, they could only pray to their god to save them. Their god could not save them. Boom! 11 days later, the formation at the entrance was blasted open. 10 people came in one after another. Emperor Mo and the other 4 did not run. They stood in a line outside the entrance, along with a group of patriarchs. They all turned to Emperor Li and Emperor Yu. Seeing that they were following them, the 5 looked at Emperor Li and Emperor Yu with derision and disdain. Emperor Li and Emperor Yu were embarrassed to see how others were looking at them. Emperor Li thought about it and said, "Guys, they are only here to target Lu Li's family, not you. Please cooperate. The lords will not make things difficult for you." Emperor Mo laughed coldly. He said, "Lu Li's family has run away. It is pointless for you to come here." Run away? Jin Yen dashed over and appeared in front of Emperor Mo. He grabbed Emperor Mo's neck and lifted him up. Jin Yen said furiously, "Where have they gone? Speak." "I sent them away on my own," Emperor Mo said expressionlessly. "I'm the only one who knows where they've gone, so you'll never know where they've gone. Do you think I am spineless like Emperor Li and Emperor Yu? You want me to betray you? In your dreams. Courting death." Jin Yen was enraged, but he did not kill Emperor Mo. The next second, Jin Yan's pupils contracted in fear. He sensed that Emperor Mo's energy was burning, and so was Jin Yan's soul. Jin Yan, who had been through hundreds of battles, knew what was going on. His hand flashed and turned into a slap, sending Emperor Mo flying. "Ask Lu Li to avenge me." "Ha ha ha." Emperor Mo laughed out loud. Then, his body suddenly exploded. His soul exploded as well. Blood and flesh flew around. A huge black hole appeared in space. Chapter 37:10. As a matter of fact, Emperor Mo had been prepared for a long time. He was the only one who knew where the secret realm was, and he was the one who sent Lu Ling and the others out. Therefore, once he fell into the hands of the enemies, they would torture him. If they could not get anything out of him, they would search his soul. After learning that Emperor Li and Emperor Yu had lured several absolute completion realm warriors to their ancestral land, Emperor Mo knew he couldn't live. Of course, he could choose to betray Lu Li's family. That way, he might survive, but he didn't want to. There were many of his family here. If he died, his family might not survive. But he still chose to die to protect Lu Li's family. His character wouldn't allow him to betray Lu Li. He believed that Lu Li would avenge him and take care of the Mo family as long as he was alive. Most of the Mo family were here, but he sent away a small number of elite disciples. With them here, as long as Lu Li could win, the Mo family would have a chance to rise again. On one side were so many absolute completion realm warriors, a super force of the immortal region. On the other side was a saint king at the early stage. But Emperor Mo had a feeling that Lu Li could win this battle. Lu Li could subdue the immortal region and these absolute completion realm warriors, just like how he subdued the Gui race and the Rhino Ape race. When Lu Li joined the Grim Reaper, he was nothing. He only became a trump card because he had some special means. Later, Lu Li rose like a comet, impressing them again and again. In the end, they could only look up to him. As far as Emperor Mo was concerned, Lu Li himself was a miracle. As long as he didn't die, he could continue to create miracles. Maybe one day, Lu Li could stand at the top and become the realm king of the immortal region? By then, his sacrifice would be worth it. Lu Li was a person who valued relationship. Mo Qianqian and Lu Li were close. As long as Lu Li could rise, the Mo family wouldn't suffer. Emperor Yu and the others narrowed their eyes. Then, sorrow appeared on their faces. They didn't react. They didn't want to avenge Emperor Mo. Compared to the absolute completion realm warriors, they were like children and adult. They weren't even on the same level. Going up would only bring humiliation to themselves. They couldn't even injure the absolute completion realm warriors, let alone drag them down with them. Jin Yen, step down, Bei Luan coldly reprimanded, his complexion somewhat unsightly. With a wave of his hand, he said to the other great perfection deities, "Take them down." Xiao. The paragons took action and captured the Feather Emperor and the other three, using special methods to seal their origin power and souls to prevent them from self-detonating. Those elders were all sealed, all of them captured. Soul search. Bei Luan pointed at an elder. Gang Yu placed his hand on the elder's head, and the elder's eyes quickly dimmed. An hour passed. Gang Yu said, "It is true that Lu Li's people have left, but Lu Li has formed an alliance called the Lu Alliance. The disciples of the Lu Alliance are here, more than 100,000. These were all brought over from Lu Li's hometown and were his most loyal subordinate. Some of these clansmen have been sent out, but most of them are still inside." "Okay," Bei Luan nodded slightly and said, "Let's set off. Gather all the martial artists here in one city and control them. If anyone resists, kill without mercy." "No," the sealed feather emperor said, "let some patriarchs go. Tell them it is my order. Gather at the ancestral city, and do not do anything rash." "Good." Bei Luan nodded and said, "We are only here for Lu Li's people. Now that they have run away, I will have to trouble your people for now. As long as you cooperate with us, we will not bother to kill some low-level warriors." Bei Luan released the seals on the patriarch. The patriarchs looked at the paragons and flew away helplessly. Pointing to Jin Yen, Bei Luan said, "You, stay here and guard the entrance. Without my order, no warrior can go out. Otherwise, kill without mercy." "Me to guard?" Jin Yen looked at Bei Luan, feeling wronged. He was so powerful and he was asked to guard the door? To let a paragons at the paragon's realm guard the door? Of course, Jin Yen felt wronged. Bei Luan snorted and said, "If something goes wrong, I will cut off the heads of your entire race. Guard it well." With that said, Bei Luan flew away with a group of warriors. Even though Emperor Mo was begging for death, Bei Luan vented his anger on Jin Yen. Jin Yen was too impulsive. It was better for him to stay here and guard the door. The group of powerful warriors flew to the largest city here. The city was in a mess, but they behaved themselves when they saw the arrival of several absolute realm warriors. How could they do that? Their leaders were captured. Emperor Li and Emperor Yu were here as well. If they dared to act rashly, they would face death. More than a dozen days later, all the warriors in the nearby cities were mobilized. In total, there were 3 million warriors. Bei Luan sent 2 absolute realm warriors to patrol and made sure that there were no warriors in the other cities. They also checked the surroundings to make sure that there were no hidden warriors. The ancestral city was large. It could easily accommodate 3 million warriors. But the 3 million warriors were driven to the plaza and squeezed together. They looked like a flock of ducks. In the eyes of all the warriors were fear, confusion, and bewilderment. The warriors here included the families of Emperor Li and Emperor Yu. "Record a memory crystal," Bei Luan ordered. Gang Yu took out a memory crystal and began to record. He even circled around the city to record everything. Bei Luan waved his hand and said, "Build a formation to trap the city. Send the families of Emperor Li and Emperor Yu out of our ancestral land." Emperor Li and Emperor Yu were overjoyed. So were their families. Soon, the 2 families' warriors flew out. Gang Yu built a divine pattern formation to seal off the city. Bei Luan, on the other hand, went to the side to set up a communication altar. He wanted to report the situation here to Bei Xian so that Bei Xian could threaten Lu Li. On the other hand, Bei Luan asked Tong Sun to interrogate Emperor Yu and the others to see if he could find out the whereabouts of Lu Li's family. If not, then there was nothing else he could do. Emperor Yu and the others could not be killed. They were important to Lu Li as well, and they could be used to threaten Lu Li. Bei Luan learned that the disciples of the Lu Alliance were Lu Li's students and his most loyal subordinates. Lu Li's family and friends had run away, but the disciples of the Lu Alliance were still here. If Lu Li learned about the situation here, he would not sit by and do nothing. For Lu Li, the disciples of the Lu Alliance must be as important as his family and friends. Good. Bei Xian received Bei Luan's message. Though he was a bit disappointed, he was satisfied. With the disciples of the Lu Alliance, Bei Xian believed that it was possible to lure Lu Li out. As long as Lu Li used his almighty artifact, he would be able to find out what was going on at the ancestral land. By then, Lu Li would come to negotiate with Bei Xian. Keep trying to find Lu Li's family and friends, Bei Xian said. Also, capture all the disciples of the God of Death and the higher-ups of the God of Death and bring them to the ancestral land. If Lu Li does not come out, I will kill them every day until all the warriors of the God of Death are dead. Chapter 37:11. During the 5 months, with the cooperation of Emperor Li and Emperor Yu and the cooperation of many patriarchs of their faction, groups of people of the God of Death were teleported to the ancestral land and brought into the ancestral land. Those brought into the ancestral land were not average warriors, but core disciples of the God of Death. If average warriors were brought in as well, the ancestral land would not be able to accommodate all of them. The God of Death had millions of core warriors at the beginning. Later on, the God of Death grew and now there were over 100 million of them. Those were the loyal warriors of the God of Death, the foundation of the organization. Now, more than half of the warriors had entered the ancestral land and they were all outside the city. On the plain outside the city, a super formation was built. The tens of millions of warriors were gathered here, squatting on the ground. Anyone who dared to move would be killed. This was tantamount to Emperor Li and Emperor Yu tricking them, because these martial artists had come in under their orders, and now they had become hostages. In addition to them, many great patriarchs were lured in as well. Emperor Li and Emperor Yu knew that what they were doing would destroy the foundation of the God of Death, their reputation, and the foundation they had been building over the years. But what could they do? If they disobeyed, they would die. Bei Luan promised them that he would not hurt their families. Bei Luan did not hurt them and set them free. Their families could not be harmed, but the other members of the God of Death were different. If they did not cooperate, then the previous agreement would be nullified and they would die miserably. During this time, the God of Death and the God of Death had suffered a lot of abuse. Emperor Mo's family members were the worst of all. Word of Emperor Mo's tragic death had spread. Emperor Mo's family members knew that they could not survive. Naturally, they would lash out and vent their anger. Emperor of Feather and the others were tortured. But no amount of interrogation worked. Emperor of Feather and the others did not know where Lu Ling and the others had gone. Soul searching was useless. Bei Luan didn't kill them, because Emperor of Feather and the others had a good relationship with Lu Li. They were good hostages. Jin Yen was sent out with a warrior at the Absolute Realm. They were going to search for the 2 powerful warriors, Emperor of Wings and Emperor of Dragon. Those 2 had slipped through the net. It would be great if they could be captured. Emperor of Wings was Lu Li's guide. It was almost done. It would be hard to find Lu Li's family members. The 100,000 disciples of the Lu Alliance and the tens of millions of Grim Reaper warriors should be enough. If Lu Li had used his overgod weapon to find out, then he definitely wouldn't just sit back and watch. He was stuck in the ice harem, so he could only negotiate. When the time came, Bei Xian would definitely handle it. Bei Luan couldn't do anything about it. Bei Luan didn't continue to capture people. He had already captured so many people. If he couldn't threaten Lu Li, then there was no point in capturing more. Now, all he had to do was wait for Lu Li to use the master artifact to investigate. What is Lu Li doing? Bei Luan was a little confused. Normally, Lu Li would check every once in a while. Wasn't Lu Li worried about his family? Did something happen to Lu Li in the Ice Queen Palace? If Lu Li didn't want to investigate, then there was nothing he could do. He had to hang the heads of several patriarchs on the city wall of the Tianyu city. Once Lu Li started to investigate, he would definitely go to the Heavens Crossing city. Luli would know something was wrong if there were some heads hanging on the city wall. He would investigate and eventually find out what was going on in the ancestral land. Luli was in trouble. He was still in the ice world inside the statue of Ice Queen. He was still curled up and moving forward step by step. Clearly, his mind was not clear anymore. He was being guided or controlled by some mysterious force. He was as cold as ice. His blood had stopped flowing and he had stopped breathing. Yet, he was still moving forward. In the depth of his soul, there was a thought telling him that he would die if he went on like this. His body would be destroyed and he would become a frozen corpse, forever staying in the ice world. However, this thought was weak. It could not control his soul. There was a strong obsession in his soul that was driving him forward. He didn't know what was ahead of him. All he knew was to move on and find an exit. As for why, he didn't think too much about it. Luli's source energy had been frozen. He had to rely on his physical strength to move forward. His eyes were blurred and his hair was disheveled. He looked like a beggar. His eyebrows and beard were frozen. He was in a sorry state. Plop, all of a sudden, Luli staggered and fell to the ground. He even rolled over. He struggled to his feet and moved on. But this time, his speed was even slower, and his hands and feet were even stiffer. Plop, another 1,000 miles later, Luli fell to the ground again. This time, he struggled for many times before he could get up. He felt his body was weak. At this rate, he would lose all feeling and he wouldn't even be able to move. His soul was still in a muddle. His consciousness was blurred and his mental state was at its worst. He moved on. This time, he fell to the ground again after more than 30 miles. Plop, plop, plop along the way, Luli kept falling to the ground. After dozens of times, he fell to the ground again. This time, he couldn't get up. He kept struggling, trying to get up. Unfortunately, his limbs were too stiff. He couldn't get up no matter how many times he tried. After several hours of struggle, Luli stopped. He curled up on the ground. His teeth were chattering, making a crack, crack, crack sound. His limbs were trembling as well. His face was awful. He was as pale as a dead man. He opened his eyes, but there was nothing but mist in them. He seemed to be in a delirious state. His lips were moving, but no one could tell what he was saying. The cold wind was howling and the snow was everywhere. Soon, Luli was covered by the snow and became a snowman. He couldn't move at all. He could feel his life force was fading away. He knew very well that if he continued like this, his life force would disappear in a few months, and he would die completely. At this critical moment, his consciousness gradually came back to him. However, his awakening was a little slow. After more than 20 days, his consciousness was completely awakened. But he noticed that his physical body was seriously injured. His soul seemed to have separated from his physical body. His soul could no longer control his physical body. Is this the final radiance of the setting sun? An idea came to Luli's mind. He began to panic. Why did something like this happen when they entered this strange ice-field world? Was he going to die for no reason? He recalled the original situation, and many questions appeared in his mind. Why did he keep moving forward without rhyme or reason? What kind of secret was hidden in it? What should I do? Luli thought quickly. He couldn't move his physical body, and he couldn't mobilize his source of energy, let alone consume the elixir. If he didn't figure out a way, he would die here. Remember the mobile website. Chapter 37:12. The situation here reminded Luli of the den of ice many years ago. It was the same there. He couldn't move, but his mind was clear. He was trapped in the den of ice for many years, and he even brought Tion Yazi out. The situation now was much worse than before. This place was too creepy. He was affected unconsciously when he came in. He only woke up now. When he woke up, he realized his body was so weak that he could not move. How could he save himself? When his body was ruined, his soul would disperse as well. He could let his soul fly out now. The question was, what could he do? This was the world of ice. There was nothing. His soul was like a wandering ghost. It would float around for a while before it dissipated. Luli checked and thought for a long time. There was no way out. It seemed that he had to wait for his body to die and then his soul to disperse. He could not move his body, his interspatial artifact, or enter the realm of Dharma. The only thing he could use was psychic power. What was the point of using psychic power? Apart from checking around, there was no other purpose. What does Ice Empress mean? She sucked me in so that I would die with her? Luli could not figure it out. Theoretically speaking, he had gotten Ice Empress divine artifact and activated the statue to come here. This was clearly one of Ice Empress' arrangements. He could withstand the cold air and activate the divine artifact. He must have met some requirements of Ice Empress. In other words, the fact that he could come here meant that Ice Empress had given him initial approval. Ice Empress did not want Luli to die with her. Otherwise, the statue could have just released some moves and Luli would have been smashed. Why go through so much trouble? There must be a reason. Luli was cheered up. Ice Empress must have a reason. There must be a way out. It was just that he had not found it yet. The desire to survive cheered Luli up. He put aside all distracting thoughts and focused on sensing the surroundings. Time flew by, and in the blink of an eye, another 3 months had passed. Luli still did not use the divine artifact. Bei Xian was getting impatient. He ordered Bei Luan to take action. Every month, he would kill a group of people. When the Grim Reaper couldn't take it anymore, he would see if Luli's family would come out and if warriors related to Luli would ask for help. Bei Luan immediately carried out the order. He captured tens of millions of warriors and killed them as he pleased. He then instructed Emperor Li, "Go and gather 1,000,000 warriors, 3 supreme elders and 10 elders." Emperor Li blinked his eyes embarrassedly and asked, "Lord Bei, why did you summon these people?" "Bullshit." Bei Luan's face sank as he said, "I've asked you to mobilize them, so do it immediately." Emperor Li had a bad feeling, but he didn't dare to disobey the order. He went outside the ancestral city and picked 3 grand elders and 10 elders. Unsurprisingly, the 13 powerful warriors were all on Lu Li's side. After that, he mobilized 1,000,000 soldiers. Gang Yu activated the barrier of divine inscriptions and waited for the 1,000,000 soldiers and the 13 experts to exit before he closed it again. Suppress. Bei Luan was covered in a black robe. Average warriors could not see his face. Bei Luan said, "Tong soon mobilized forces in heaven and earth to contain the 1,000,000 soldiers and the 13 powerful warriors." Bei Luan said to Emperor Li and Emperor Yu, "Do it. Kill those warriors and cut off their heads. If Luli does not come out for a month, I will kill 1,000,000 every month until they are all gone." "What?" Emperor Li and Emperor Yu looked at each other. Their faces were clouded. Those warriors were not average warriors. They were the backbone of the Grim Reaper, the foundation of the Grim Reaper. If the tens of millions of warriors and the patriarchs and great patriarchs were killed, what would the Grim Reaper have? "Lord!" Emperor Li begged at once, "Lord, those warriors have nothing to do with Luli. They are the foundation of the Grim Reaper. Please let them go." "If you don't kill them," Bei Luan said coldly, "then you will not cooperate with us. Since you are not cooperating, then don't blame us for not keeping our promise." Bei Luan's meaning was clear. If Emperor Li and Emperor Yu would not kill them, then they would kill the warriors of the Li family and the Yu universe. Some of them would die anyway. Do as you see fit. Bastard Li, bastard Yu. On the city wall of the ancestral city, Emperor Yu and the others were tortured beyond recognition. Now they were nailed to the city wall. It was a miserable sight. Seeing what was happening outside the city, Emperor Yu screamed, "You bastards! You are the accomplices of a villain. If you dare to do anything to your own people, we will haunt you even as ghosts." Another warrior yelled, "You bastards, you have destroyed the foundation of the Grim Reaper. What can you do if you can survive? The Grim Reaper has offended so many forces. Can you stand it? If Luli comes back, can your two races survive?" The few big shots started cursing, and countless martial artists inside and outside the city followed suit. Even though the shield was activated, their voices could still be heard. Emperor Li and Emperor Yu were even more upset. Beiluan, on the other hand, remained calm. He stared at them coldly, waiting for their decision. After a moment of silence, Emperor Li and Emperor Yu made up their minds, took out their weapons and dashed forward. Tong Sun worked with them. Everywhere they went, the force in heaven and earth disappeared. They wielded their relic weapons, killing one warrior at a time. Heads flew up one after another. 1,000,000 warriors were slaughtered for several hours, and those supreme elders were suppressed and killed. More than 1,000,000 warriors, more than 1,000,000 heads, and more than 1,000,000 headless bodies. Many bodies were still spitting out blood. It was a tragic scene. Many warriors looked at Emperor Li and Emperor Yu with hatred. Any force would hate traitors the most, especially when Emperor Li and Emperor Yu were once two of their leaders. Bring the heads to the Tianyue city. Put them on the city wall. Beiluan waved his hand, telling the patriarchs working for Emperor Li to do it. The patriarchs looked at each other. Would they be assassinated by Emperor of Wings if they brought the heads out like this? There were still some great patriarchs hiding outside. But what else could they do under such circumstances? They had to go all the way. The more than a dozen patriarchs flew down, put the heads into their interspatial rings, and left. Emperor Li threw a look at the headless bodies. He could not help but ask, "Lord, do you want us to deal with the bodies?" "No." Beiluan waved his hand. "Just leave them like this. Later, when Luli uses the almighty artifact, he can see that these people died because of him." Sure, Emperor Li came back to his senses. He flew to the sky above the city and said with grief and indignation, "Don't blame us. We had no other choice. Blame Luli. He is the cause of all this. If you don't want to die, and if you can contact him, please do so as soon as possible. Otherwise, we will all die here." PFF. The response that the Feather Emperor and the others gave was not limited to the giants. Countless cultivators in the city spat and gave the most direct response. Chapter 37:13. The huge change in Skyleap City had long since attracted the attention of the rulers of the chaotic starfield. The rulers pretended not to know and didn't care. Lu Li's fight with the Immortal Region's great clans wasn't something they could do even if they wanted to. They were still living in fear, afraid that the Immortal Region's powerhouses would cause trouble for them. With so many Grim Reaper warriors captured and so many elders' corpses hanging in Skyleap City, the rulers naturally knew that something big had happened to the Grim Reaper. Lu Li and the other leaders didn't show themselves. The Grim Reaper had obviously been captured, and those heads were displayed on the city walls as a show of force, to lure Lu Li out. Although the rulers didn't dare to make a move, they sent many scouts to Skyleap City. The rulers were all trembling with fear, afraid that the Immortal Region's powerhouses would cause trouble for them. On this very day, the Grim Reaper's dozen or so elders had returned. Then, they did something that gave the scouts of the various sovereigns a huge fright. When these elders arrived at Skyleap City, they didn't do anything other than take out human heads from their interspatial rings and place them on the city walls. Skyleap City was very large, and the city walls were very tall. After the elders placed the heads on top of the city walls, they actually circled around the city walls. For such a large city, there had to be at least a few 100,000 heads, right? Some people secretly counted and found that there were more than 1,000,000 heads. Moreover, there were actually a few grand elders and many elders among those heads. The Grim Reaper's higher-ups really have been controlled. When the rulers received the news, they all came to the same conclusion. If the Grim Reaper's higher-ups hadn't been controlled, then how could these elders have done such a thing? The Grim Reaper's higher-ups and soldiers had been killed, but instead of burying their heads, they were placed on the city walls? This was desecration of the dead. Under normal circumstances, how could these Grim Reaper elders have done such a thing? Some of the Grim Reaper's powerhouses had been controlled, and the Immortal Region's powerhouses were luring Luli out. The rulers' higher-ups came to this conclusion. This conclusion made the rulers even more terrified. They all began to arrange for some elite warriors to be scattered and hidden. This way, if something happened, they wouldn't be completely wiped out. The chaotic starfield was at its weakest right now, with the least number of perfection realms. Of course, even the other powerful star regions couldn't contend against the major powers of the Immortal Region. Some sovereigns secretly sent envoys to the southern and eastern realms, reporting the situation here to the southern and eastern realms' kings, hoping that they would act to suppress the situation. After all, the 9 great realm kings of the Immortal Realms had an agreement. When Feng Yi received the messages from the various sovereigns, he laughed coldly. He hadn't done anything. He knew very well which family the experts were from. It was the king of the northern region. What was more, Beiluan didn't show up in public. It was Jin Yen, Gang Yu and the others who showed up. All of them held grudges against Luli, and this was a personal vendetta. They were only targeting the Grim Reaper, which didn't violate the agreement made by the 9 lords. The Grim Reaper won't be able to escape this time. Luli probably won't be able to escape his fate either. Feng Yi murmured, and her expression relaxed slightly. If Luli didn't die, he would come after him. By then, even if Luli didn't wipe out the Feng family, he would have to pay for it with his life. Therefore, he still prayed that Luli would die and that Beiluan would win. A month later, a message came. Another 1,000,000 heads were placed on the city wall of the Tianyu city. Those were average warriors, several great patriarchs and 10 patriarchs. This time, the number was the same as last time. It was a clear message to Luli. If he didn't show up, the Grim Reaper would kill 1,000,000 warriors, several great patriarchs and 10 patriarchs in a month. There were probably more than 100 million warriors that belonged to the Grim Reaper. At this rate, in less than 2 or 3 years, all the warriors of the Grim Reaper would be killed. What was more, Beiluan and the other patriarchs would be annoyed as well. They might have to kill millions at once. Maybe in less than a year, all the warriors of the Grim Reaper would be wiped out. What would be the point of Luli coming back when all the warriors of the Grim Reaper were dead? By then, Luli's family and relatives would all be dead as well. What is Luli doing? Feng Yi was not the only one thinking about this. All the leaders of the sovereigns were thinking about this as well. How come Luli didn't show up at this point? Luli wouldn't do that, considering his character. How many stupid things did Luli do when he was impulsive? How many times had he risked his life? How come he was so timid now? Luli, come back soon. Many powerful warriors were praying for Luli to come back. Whether Luli won or the Celestial Region won, they would be fine. If this went on, they were afraid that the powerful warriors of the Celestial Region would attack them. By then, no one would be able to fight back. Luli couldn't come back. Luli was still in that world of ice. He still couldn't move his body. He spread out his psychic power to check his surroundings. He had been doing this for several months, but he didn't find anything out of the ordinary. He guessed that there must be a reason why the Ice Empress sent him here. Unfortunately, he couldn't figure out the reason why the Ice Empress sent him here. He felt that his body was about to be destroyed. In 2 or 3 months at most, his body would be completely destroyed, just like Jin Yen and the others. What is the Ice Empress' intention? Luli was confused. He used his psychic power to scan the surroundings. All he could see was snow and wind. Apart from that, there was nothing else. This was a normal scene. There was nothing special about it. Why can't I enter the Dharma realm? Luli wondered. Usually, he could go in under any circumstances, unless the space was extremely unstable. The space here was so stable. Why couldn't he go in? If he could enter the Dharma realm, his body could be healed quickly. His wounds could be healed quickly. He could then come out and explore more carefully. In this way, he wouldn't be in any danger. The Dharma realm was inside him. The elixir was the connection between him and the Dharma realm. Usually, he could enter the Dharma realm with just one thought. He didn't need to use the Dharma realm. Why couldn't he do it this time? Is it because of this world? Luli was hesitating. This world had a horrifying cold air. The cold air outside came from here. This world must be special. It must be a strange world. Can it be? Luli suddenly thought of a possibility. Was this the Dharma realm of the Ice Empress? If the Ice Empress could be called the Ice Empress, then she must have reached the peak in the law of ice. If this was the Dharma realm of an overgod, then it would make sense. How powerful was the Dharma realm of an overgod? The space here should be isolated from the outside. The barrier of an overgod's Dharma realm was strong. It was not surprising that the Dharma realm of an overgod could not be connected. The Dharma realm of the Ice Empress, the source of ice and snow. Is there an origin of ice and snow here? Luli suddenly understood. If this was the Dharma realm of the Ice Empress or the source of the world of ice and snow, then Ice Empress' intention was clear. His Dharma realm could absorb the cold air, and he could use the overgod weapon left by the Ice Empress. He could enter this world. What did it mean? It meant that the Ice Empress wanted him to receive her real legacy. What was the real legacy of the Ice Empress? Luli was not sure. But it must have something to do with the origin of ice and snow, the ultimate profound meaning of ice and snow. If he could receive the legacy of ice and snow, then the crisis in this world would be resolved without him having to do anything. His abilities would be enhanced and he would be reborn. Remember the mobile version. Chapter 37:14. With a general direction in mind, Luli began to feel with his heart. There was nothing he could do now except to learn the origin of ice and snow, the ultimate profound meaning of ice and snow, and the truth of this world. The nature of ice and snow. Luli remembered the law of ice and snow he learned in this world. It seemed that he could continue. In this world, the law of ice and snow was clearer and it would be easier to learn. Never mind. Let me try first. Luli made up his mind. He didn't care if his body would be destroyed. If he couldn't solve the problem, he would have to die. He had to cut off all means of retreat and put himself in a hopeless situation. He began to meditate and began to learn the law of ice and snow that was everywhere in this world. Just as he had expected, as soon as he began to meditate, he found that the law of ice and snow was everywhere in this world, and it was clear. He felt he had seen it before. It was just like his realm of magic. The laws in his realm of magic were clear as well, as if he could reach out and touch them. The law of ice and snow here was so obvious that he could sense it at any time. Well, let me master the law of ice and snow first. Luli stopped thinking and seized the time to study. Something amazing happened. While Luli was studying the law of ice and snow, the ice and snow on him began to melt. The wind and snow around him would melt as well. Phew, phew, the cold wind was howling and the ice and snow were everywhere. While Luli was studying the law of ice and snow, the wind and snow here grew stronger and the law of ice and snow was clearer. It was easier for Luli to sense the law as well. It was like he was in an epiphany and he was making rapid progress. He was in a state of silence now. He didn't care about anything else. He had to master the law of ice and snow first. East King City, Sacred Region. The master of the Eastern Region stood on the balcony with Lord Yun behind him. The master of the Eastern Region stood there for a long time without saying anything. Lord Yun had to stay with him. After another 2 hours, the master of the Eastern Region finally spoke. Are Bei Xian and Kuan-Mo still there? Yes. Lord Yun answered with caution. Kuan-Mo has not come out from the Ice Queen Palace. He is probably working on the runes in the Ice Queen Palace. Bei Xian, on the other hand, is living in a small city outside. In addition, Bei Luan and the others had gone to the heavenly chaotic starfield and captured many warriors of the Grim Reaper. Many leaders of the Grim Reaper had also been captured. Currently, the number of heads displayed in Tianyue City has already reached 3 million. 1 million will be killed in a month. What a disgrace! The king of the Eastern Region snorted and said, the dignified king of the Northern Region actually did such a thing. Even the ancestors of the Bei family were shamed because of him. Spread the news and ruin Bei Xian's reputation first. Yes. Lord Yun nodded and said, I'll arrange it later. I won't let anyone know that it was us who spread the news. It doesn't matter even if you know. The king of the Eastern Region snorted and said, I don't care if anything happens to Luli this time. Before I die, I will definitely go to the North King City. There aren't many powerful warriors in this world that dare to slap me in the face. If they do, they will pay the price. And Lord Yun was also filled with killing intent. This time, Bei Xian targeting Luli was like a slap to the face of Lord of the Eastern Region and Lord Yun. Lord Yun had no choice but to ask Kuan-Mo for help. But Kuan-Mo would only help him once and not forever. When the king of the Eastern Region was about to die, Lord Yun could ask Kuan-Mo for help, but the latter wouldn't come easily. Also, even if Kuan-Mo were to help, the king of the Eastern Region would have nothing to worry about. Luli is not dead yet, is he? The king of the Eastern Region asked again. Lord Yun nodded with certainty and said, yes, he is not dead yet. He must have gone into the ice harem and used the runes there to stop Kuan-Mo and Bei Xian. Let's hope he is blessed by heaven. Where is Little White? The king of the Eastern Region turned around and asked, how is the little bastard's cultivation going? I just went to have a look. Lord Yun reported. He is still in closed-door cultivation in the secret realm and hasn't come out yet. Little White is doing well this time. After so many years of closed-door cultivation, he has been cultivating diligently. He is very sensible. Yes. The king of the Eastern Region showed affection in his eyes. He had always been like this, cold on the outside but warm on the inside. He didn't seem to care about Little White, but he actually cared about it and treasured it. Otherwise, why would he go to the Origin Realm? He even killed a master of the Origin Realm. This was to avenge Little White and at the same time to deter others. The king of the Eastern Region waved his hand and Lord Yun left to make arrangements. In just half a month, what Bei Xian had done was spread out. So was the news that Bei Luan went to the Chaotic Star region to kill average warriors. When the news spread out, the Celestial region became lively. How could the king of the Northern region do such a thing? The Bei family was also a wealthy family. Not only did they mess around in the 8 galaxies, but they also killed average warriors? Or millions of them. Several days later, the king of the Southern region made an announcement, saying that they had also received the report from the Chaotic Star region. Such things did happen, and the king of the Southern region wanted an explanation from the king of the Northern region. After the king of the Southern region made the announcement, the other kings followed suit, demanding an explanation from the king of the Northern region. This was a violation of the agreement between the 9 kings. The Bei family sent an urgent message to Bei Xian, but the latter didn't take it seriously and asked the Bei family to make another announcement. He said that what happened in the chaotic star region had nothing to do with him. It was Jin Yen and Gang Yutong who ordered De Ling to seek revenge against Lu Li. The Bei family didn't participate and wouldn't interfere. Everyone in the celestial region knew that Jin Yen and Lu Li were enemies. Gang Yutong and De Ling were chased out of the chaotic star region years ago. It was understandable that they joined forces to seek revenge against Lu Li. Bei Xian wouldn't admit it, so it wasn't a violation of the agreement. Bei Xian made it clear that he wouldn't interfere. He meant that if the other kings had objections, they could kill Jin Yen and De Ling. Bei Xian wouldn't feel bad about it anyway. The king of the eastern region didn't want to use this to make things difficult for the king of the northern region. Even if he captured Beiluan, the northern region wouldn't have anything to do with him. He could make an announcement to the tribe saying that Beiluan had been chased out of the tribe. Would the other kings go to war with the king of the northern region because of this? The king of the eastern region didn't care. He couldn't do anything even if he wanted to. He still had thousands of years to live and wanted to protect Little White for a few more years. He didn't want to risk his life now. Rustle, rustle, rustle. 1.5 months later, Lord Yun suddenly rushed to the stage and said, "Family Patriarch, Little White is missing." What? The king of the eastern region's eyes suddenly turned cold. He said in a deep voice, "Isn't Old Ba guarding the entrance of the secret territory? Is he dead? He can't even guard the entrance?" Old Ba was sent away. Lord Yun said bitterly. Qi Shishir came and sent Old Ba away for a while. Then Qi Shishir went in and came out not long after. After that, Old Ba went in to take a look from afar. He didn't pay much attention to Little White. When he went back 10 days later, Little White was gone. 10 days ago, Little White must have created an illusion and deceived Old Ba. Bastard! The king of the eastern region said angrily. Take a few full perfection realm warriors and set off immediately. Little White must have gone to the chaotic star region. Go and bring this bastard back. The stupid lady of the Qi family wants to marry Little White with such low EQ? Third sect leader. Chapter 37:15. It was Qi Shishir who took Little White away. Qi Shishir cared about Little White, not because of its identity. The king of the eastern region was about to die and it was uncertain if Little White could reach the ultimate realm. Staying with Little White might not end well. Qi Shishir really liked Little White. Usually, all the young masters were polite to her and they were trying to please her both openly and in secret. As a young lady, she didn't like this kind of behavior. Little White didn't pay attention to her, which aroused her competitiveness. Gradually, she found many good points about Little White. Little by little, she became addicted to Little White and fell in love with it. Since she liked Little White, she would do everything possible to pay attention to Little White. Over the years, Little White had been in closed-door cultivation, so Qi Shishir could only pay attention to Lu Li. She knew very well how important Lu Li was to Little White. Little White was like a father and a brother. As long as Qi Shishir could help Lu Li, Little White would like her. Qi Shishir had been paying close attention to what was happening at the chaotic star region. Her family had spies in the chaotic star region, so she was informed soon. Qi Shishir didn't think too much. Seeing that Lu Li was in danger, especially his family, she secretly teleported to the eastern region and went to the place where Little White was cultivating. She knew Little White was being watched. If the king of the eastern region knew, he would not let Little White go to the chaotic star region. If Little White didn't go to the chaotic star region, then she and Little White would have no chance to be alone or fight side by side. Therefore, she skillfully tricked Ba, who was guarding the place, and went to find Little White. At the end of the day, Qi Shishir and Little White were the same. They were both spoiled and bold. As far as she was concerned, If she and Little White were to make a move, who would dare to kill them? She was a naive girl. It was not that she wasn't smart. It was just that she had too little experience and didn't know the dangers of the world. What was Little White's temper? As soon as he heard that Luli was in trouble, he left without a second thought. He was smart enough to know that once he was discovered, he would be taken back by the king of the eastern region. Therefore, he made some arrangements and secretly teleported away with Qi Shishir. They forced their way out of the immortal region and flew to the chaotic star region as fast as they could. Qi Shifu didn't bring too many guards with him. He only brought 3 experts who were infinitely close to the Great Perfection Realm. However, there was one Great Perfection Realm accompanying him. That full-circle cultivator did not care about Qi Shishir's matter and only protected her along the way. As for Little Bai, he did not bring anyone along. Qi Shifu and Little White had no idea what was going on in the chaotic star area, nor did they know that Kuan Mo and Bei Xian were targeting Luli. Kuan Mo was someone that not even the King of the East dared to provoke. They had flown 10 days in advance. Lord Yun had brought along 10 full perfection deities. Even if he wanted to catch up, he would not be able to catch up with them in a short period of time. Qi Shishir had a top-notch warship, which was very fast. The situation in the chaotic starfield was still very tragic. Every month, Beiluan would kill 1 million warriors. After 5 months, the walls of the Sky Bridge City were filled with human heads. He had already killed 5 million soldiers. Now, there were basically no cultivators living in Skymoon City. Instead, the ones living here were the scouts of the major factions and some of the older generation of the Grim Reaper who wished to live and die with Skymoon City. The entire city was filled with a strong smell of blood. Many of the heads on the city wall had their eyes wide open, emitting the stench of corpses. Luckily, there were some warriors here. Otherwise, when the eagles flew over, those heads would have been snatched away. Some of the 5 million warriors were disciples of the Lu Alliance. Every time Emperor Li went to pick, he would pick 10,000 disciples of the Lu Alliance. Beiluan had acquiesced. Luli did not give any response. So, Beiluan killed a group of disciples of the Lu Alliance to see if they could contact Luli. Beiluan was troubled. What was Luli doing? Why didn't he use his almighty artifact? Could it be that Luli was trapped as well? If that was the case, then Luli would not know no matter how many he killed. What was the point of him killing like this? When all of them were killed, what could he use to threaten Luli? There was also Luli's family. Emperor of Yu had been interrogated many times. Several of Emperor Mo's immediate descendants were killed by soul searching. Nothing was found. Emperor Li had sent out many patriarchs of the Grim Reaper to look for Luli, but to no avail. Of course, many of the scouts were just putting on a show. Many didn't even want to look for Luli. Would it be a good thing to find Luli's family? They would be punished. Even if Luli was killed, the forces loyal to Luli would do the same. Beiluan was frustrated as well since nothing was happening. More than a year had passed. He had gone in to take a look at Kuan Mo's side, but there was still no movement. He had been studying the divine inscriptions. It would take him more than a decade to crack a side chamber. There must be a reason why Luli didn't use his almighty artifact. Either the almighty artifact could not be used where he was, or Luli was focused on something, like accepting the legacy of the Ice Empress? Of course, Luli was only at the initial stage of the Saint King. Chapter 37:16. Kill the Old Sky-Swallowing Beast. Bei Yang was scared. This was an idea he didn't even dare to think about, especially when the King of the East was about to die. Who would want to risk their lives against him? It wasn't worth it to risk their lives against a dying supreme warrior. They might die with him. Beiyang thought about it and asked, will old Demon Kun agree? Will the kings of the west and the southern region agree? This is too risky. Family patriarch, you must calm down. I am calm, Bei Xian said firmly. I will talk to Kun and he will agree. Old Demon Kun and I will hold the fort. I think the kings of the south and the west will agree when they have the chance. Also, we can kill the young sky-swallowing beast. They don't want a new king of the east to dominate the world, right? Bei Xian was throwing caution to the wind. Little White was here, so would the king of the east. Maybe the old sky-swallowing beast would try to assassinate him. Unless he went back to the northern region now, it would not be safe here. Of course, he could go into the Ice Queen Palace and hide with Kun. More importantly, if he couldn't kill Luli this time, he would be killed by the king of the east. Old Demon Kun would only help him this time. Luli didn't even use his divine artifact. Who knew where Luli was and what was going on? If Luli was trapped for decades, Bei Xian would be in big trouble. Since it was risky no matter what, he might as well do something big. Old Demon Kun was about to die. Bei Xian had to think for the Kun family and wanted him to help them. Therefore, old Demon Kun wouldn't cherish his life. It didn't matter if he fought with the king of the east. As long as old Demon Kun was willing to help, the chances of winning would be high. With the kings of the south and the west, the chances would be even higher. The kings of the south and the west were both suppressed by the king of the east. This was the shame of their lives. If they could kill the king of the east to avenge themselves, they would be happy. There was also Lu Xiaobai. It would be good for everyone if Lu Xiaobai could be killed. Bei Xian believed that Kun and the kings of the south and the west would be happy. Besieging the king of the eastern region seemed very risky. After all, the king of the eastern region's innate divine ability was too terrifying. But the risk was actually not high. Kun Mo could withstand the king of the east's innate divine power. If the realm kings worked together, the possibility of killing the king of the east was 70%. Bei Xian had already made up his mind, and Beiyang could not persuade him otherwise. If Kun Mo agreed to attack, the possibility of this matter greatly increased. It would naturally be a good thing if they could kill the king of the eastern region. Beiyang thought for a moment and asked, why don't we summon all the paragons from our side? No need. Bei Xian shook his head and said, if we can't kill the old heaven-swallowing beast, then no matter how many consummation deities there are, it would be meaningless. Instead, it would easily alert the enemy. Let's carry out according to my plan. Hurry up. Immediately contact the king of the western region and the king of the southern region. It will take some time for them to rush over. Once they confirm it, we can start making arrangements on our side. Tell Balun to execute the order immediately. Alright. Beiyang took a deep breath and went to make arrangements. He was very nervous. Bei Xian was making a huge gamble. If they could not kill the king of the east this time, it might bring a disaster to the Bei family. Put all the warriors into a spatial artifact and take them away. In the ancestral grounds of the death god, Balun received the order and immediately executed it without any hesitation. Although there were still tens of millions of warriors here, it was easy to take them away. They just had to get a few hundred spatial artifacts and put them away. Jin Yen and the others were puzzled. Why would they take so many warriors away? Where were they going after leaving? Balun did not explain. Jin Yen and the others executed the order and took all the warriors away. Then, they quietly left the Death God's territory and flew towards the Sky Universe star field. They took the Spectre ship and no warriors discovered them on the way. Even the warriors left behind by the Death God did not know that they had left. The Winged Monarch and the Dragon Monarch did not dare to go near the ancestral grounds, so they did not know that they had left. Half a month after they left the chaotic sky star field, Little White and the others came. Little White and Qi Shirshir were simple-minded. They didn't care about anything and just flew toward the Heaven Crossing region. When they arrived at the Heaven Crossing region, they saw many heads on the city wall. Little White was enraged. He thought Lu Li's family was killed and he almost lost his temper. The Winged Monarch and the Dragon Monarch had been hiding. They were overjoyed when they heard the news. They had scouts contact Little White and guide them to the ancestral grounds. Little White and Qi Shirshir didn't care about anything else. They flew to the ancestral grounds directly. To their surprise, the ancestral grounds were empty except for several patriarchs of the death god guarding the entrance. Several patriarchs of Emperor Li's subordinates were in the ancestral grounds. Little White killed several patriarchs in a fit of rage and tortured 2 patriarchs half to death. Little White learned the whereabouts of Jin Yen and the others. Balun and Jin Yen went to the Ice River Valley in the Sky Universe star field. Since the Winged Monarch and the Dragon Monarch did not show up, Little White did not know that Lu Ling and the others were fine. Little White thought they had been taken to the Sky Universe starfield. Without hesitation, Little White took Qi Shirshir and the others to the Sky Universe starfield. Little White's idea was simple. It just wanted to find Balun and the others and ask them to give an explanation and rescue the hostages. Little White and Qi Shirshir went to the Sky Universe starfield. Because the direction was different, Lord Tianyun and the others arrived at the Tianyue city on the 6th day and did not encounter Little White. When Lord Tianyun learned that Little White had gone to the Sky Universe starfield, he went after them without any hesitation. Bei Xian asked Balun to arrange some spies to monitor the situation so that he knew everything. When he learned that Little White had gone to the Sky Universe starfield, Bei Xian was relieved. The most crucial step was completed. Now it was up to the King of the East to stop Little White halfway. Of course. The premise was that the King of the East had left the immortal region and followed Little White all the way here. Even if the old heaven-swallowing beast doesn't come, as long as I take Lu Xiaobai down, he will definitely come. Bei Xian made up his mind. As long as Little White arrived here, he would take it down and lure the King of the East over. By then, he could use Koan Mo and the King of the West outside the southern region to join forces and destroy the King of the East. The 2 realm kings didn't reply. If they didn't reply, then that was the best news. If the 2 realm lords didn't agree, they would definitely reject it. If they didn't reply, it would be a tacit agreement. They didn't want to leave any evidence and wouldn't reveal themselves openly. In other words, they would hide in the dark. If Koan Mo and Balun could stop the King of the East and suppress him, they would definitely join forces to eliminate the King of the East to avenge their humiliation. If Koan Mo didn't make a move or couldn't suppress the King of the East, they would definitely hide in the dark and not come out. Bei Xian was very confident about this. Koan Mo would definitely make a move, and he and Koan Mo would definitely be able to suppress the King of the East. Koan Mo could block the heaven-swallowing divine skill and wasn't afraid of the King of the East. If Koan Mo could block the heaven-swallowing divine skill, there wouldn't be any big problems. With his and Koan Mo's strength, they could easily suppress the King of the East. He really came. More than 2 months later, Bei Xian sensed a slight fluctuation in the nearby space. He revealed a faint smile. The King of the South had come and secretly released a signal of his arrival. Now, everything was ready and waiting for Little White to find him. P.S. The update will resume the day after tomorrow. Remember the mobile website. Chapter 37:17. Lu Xiaobai was here, swaggering over. His battleship didn't even go invisible and didn't turn on the shield to block out psychic power. They also wanted to tell Beiluan that they were here. If he didn't want things to get out of hand, he should release the hostages. In Lu Xiaobai's mind, Bei Xian was a coward. When Lu Xiaobai went to the northern region and killed Bio, the king of the northern region didn't even dare to fart. Lu Xiaobai knew that the king of the northern region was the weakest among the 9 region kings. Since Lu Xiaobai and Qi Shifu were here, how could Bei Luan not release the hostages? If things got out of hand and his father went to the northern region, who could stop him? Lu Xiaobai was fast and could reach the Ice River Valley in 2 months at most. Lord Yun and the others chased after him. Unfortunately, their battleships were of the same level and speed. How could they catch up? If the king of the eastern region flew at full speed, he could catch up. But nobody knew if the king of the eastern region would catch up. A few days later, Bei Xian sensed another faintly discernible presence. The king of the western region was here as well. Like the king of the southern region, he didn't show himself and only hid in the dark. He would only show up when the war started. He wouldn't show himself unless he had the upper hand. From the perspective of the 2 region kings, they were not wrong. They wanted to avenge the humiliation, but the old heaven-swallowing beast was too powerful and dying. They might be dragged to death by the old heaven-swallowing beast. It wasn't worth it. Without absolute confidence, they wouldn't do anything. Bei Xian walked out of the city and went back to the ice harem. Qin Wentian followed the safe passageway to the front of the statue. Koan Mo was still sitting cross-legged here. Beneath his feet, streaks of red light slithered about like tiny snakes. Clearly, he was probing the divine inscriptions in the surroundings, trying to find a way to break through them. You are here. Koan Mo didn't open his eyes. He knew that Bei Xian wouldn't come here for nothing. Something must have happened since Bei Xian came here directly. Bei Xian bowed and said, Patriarch Koan, I have something to report to you. Koan Mo opened his eyes but said nothing. Bei Xian said, The king of the eastern region's son is Lu Li's sworn brother. He heard that Lu Li was trapped here and sneaked over. I think he will be here for 2 months at most. Old Devil Yun from the east is chasing after us with 10 paragons. He'll be here in 2 months. Old Demon Koan was expressionless. He pondered for a moment before saying, Don't tell me you can't even suppress 11 paragons? That's no problem at all. Bei Xian's attitude was very humble as he said with a smile, I've already secretly mobilized some great perfection deities over. These 11 great perfection deities will naturally be able to suppress them. However, the king of the eastern region dotes on his son very much, and I suspect that the old heaven-devouring beast might secretly follow him here. At that time, there might be conflict. Koan Mo's face darkened and his gaze suddenly became sharp. He stared at Bei Xian coldly. The latter's hair stood on end. He didn't dare to look at Koan Mo in the eye and only bowed deeply. Koan Mo snorted and said, Old heaven-swallowing beast, you probably lured it here on purpose, right? You want to borrow this old man's saber to kill the old heaven-devouring beast? Although this old madman is crazy, he is not stupid. It is not easy to fool him. Bei Xian sighed inwardly and bowed again. Elder Koan, everyone knows that the king of the eastern region's son and Lu Li are sworn brothers. You can go and investigate this. He has been in seclusion all this time, and the old heaven-devouring beast is watching him closely. Even if I wanted to lure the young heaven-devouring beast here, there is nothing I can do. I can make a chief god blood oath that Lu Xiaobai's departure from the celestial realm is definitely not my doing. Bei Xian secretly changed his mind. It was true that Xiaobai's departure from the celestial realm was not his doing, but he had lured it here on purpose. If Lu Xiaobai came, the king of the eastern region might come. Even if he didn't, he would capture Lu Xiaobai and lure him here. However, he didn't mention this. Koan Mo still had some doubts. After a moment of silence he said, You want this old man to make a move? I won't hide it from you, Elder Koan. Bei Xian said with some shame, I can't withstand the heaven-swallowing divine skill. If you don't make a move, I will die once the old heaven-devouring beast makes a move. You know the old heaven-devouring beast's temper. As long as he doesn't come, he will definitely make a move. In the Origin realm, he is very powerful. I guess he wants to kill me to fulfill his supreme prestige. Kuonemo hesitated for a moment and said, I can only suppress him, but I can't kill him. As long as you can suppress him. Bei Xian revealed a look of joy and said, after knowing that Lu Xiaobai left the celestial realm, I was afraid that something would happen. I have already contacted the king of the southern region and the king of the western region. If the old heaven-devouring beast dares to make trouble for us, we will join forces and kill him. Haha. Kuonemo looked at Bei Xian meaningfully and said, the previous agreement is invalid. I want you to make a chief god blood oath again. As long as you are alive, you must protect the Kuan race from destruction. This, Bei Xian was a little conflicted. He wasn't the most powerful person in the celestial realm. It was good enough that he could protect the northern region. Now he had to protect the Kuan realm? Did Kuonemo think he was a chief god? Protecting 2 realms? This made him feel very pressured. Overgod blood oaths could not be made recklessly. Overgods were real existences. Once a blood oath was made, it was possible for overgods to sense it. At that time, if he did not abide by the oath, he might be killed by a single thought from overgod. Previously, he said he would have 3 chances to attack. He would attack with all his strength 3 times. After completing the agreement, he could ignore the life and death of the Kuan race. Now, he had to protect the Kuan race. Wasn't the price too high? Ha ha! Seeing that Bei Xian didn't speak, Kuonemo sneered and said, if you are not willing, then the previous agreement is invalid. I will leave now. You can settle the rest yourself. With that, Kuonemo stood up and was about to leave. Bei Xian panicked. If Kuonemo didn't care about this, the consequences would be dire. If the king of the east knew that Kuonemo had gone back, he would definitely chase after him. No matter where he ran, he would die. Elder Kuan, wait. Bei Xian gritted his teeth and said, fine, I promise you. As long as I am alive, I will protect the Kuan race from destruction. Make the chief god blood oath. Kuonemo smiled. He knew that Bei Xian had to agree. They weren't fools. The king of the east must be furious, right? If he left, Bei Xian would definitely die. Hence, Bei Xian could only accept whatever conditions he offered. To him, suppressing the king of the east was nothing. He didn't have much lifespan left. It didn't matter if he died here. He used his short lifespan to exchange for a chief god blood oath from the king of the north. The Kuan race wasn't weak either. As long as they joined forces with the king of the north, it wouldn't be a problem even if he died. His enemy was fighting against 2 realms at the same time. No one had the confidence to win. Of course, he was very clear about one thing. Once this agreement was reached, this battle was unavoidable. Bei Xian would do everything he could to lure the king of the east over. He had to think of a way to kill the king of the east. Otherwise, Bei Xian would be in danger. Once Bei Xian died, all his efforts would be in vain. There were so many realm kings. After choosing, only the king of the north was suitable. This was because the king of the north was very young. In the future, his battle strength would increase by a lot. As long as the king of the north didn't die, he could live for hundreds of thousands of years. In hundreds of thousands of years, the Kuan race could give birth to a super expert. At that time, his race would be strong. Alright. After the king of the northern region made the blood oath, he sat down cross-legged again and waved his hand, saying, you can go out first. When the old heaven-devouring beast is about to arrive, just come in and call me. This old man will help you send this dying heaven-devouring beast on his way. P.S. Normal updates will resume tomorrow. Remember the mobile version. Chapter 37:18. Luli had no idea what was going on outside. He had an almighty artifact, but he could not move his body or take it out. Naturally, he could not see what was going on outside. At the moment, he could not care less. He had been studying the law of ice, and had no time to think about other things. More than half of his body was damaged. There was nothing he could do, even if he was concerned about what was going on outside. There was nothing he could do. He might die here. What was the point of thinking so much? He was making rapid progress in his study of the law of ice and snow. He had only been studying for 2 months, but he felt he was close to the ultimate achievement. What was the point of learning the law of ice and snow? Luli did not know. He had to take things one step at a time and study the law of ice and snow first. Time flew by. Soon, a month had passed. Luli had finally mastered the law of ice and snow. He was overjoyed. Finally, he understood the profound meaning. Frost profound meaning. This profound meaning had a lot to do with the world of ice. It was so cold here that people could not stand it and would be at a loss of what to do. When the profound meaning of frost was released, the temperature around would drop to a horrifying level. It would also affect a warrior's speed. If the warrior was enveloped in the profound meaning of frost for a long time, the warrior would be frozen to death. I can save my body now. The moment Luli mastered the profound meaning of frost, he knew that his body would be fine. Many parts of his body were damaged, but as long as he could stand the cold, he could recover gradually. As long as he could move, his wounds would heal quickly. He would be fine in a couple of days with the help of the elixir. He didn't release the profound meaning of frost. The moment he began to study, he could not feel any coldness. His soul, which had been suffering from the cold all the time, was no longer cold. He had learned the profound meaning of frost. How could the coldness here affect him? He could not feel any coldness in his soul, let alone his body. Luli used psychic power to check. His body was recovering. His body was strong. It could recover on its own when it was not under constant harm. That being said, his injuries were serious this time. Most parts of his body were frozen and his source of life was destroyed. To recover quickly was difficult. He had to do it bit by bit. Luli estimated that in a month at most, he would be able to move again. By then, he could consume the pellets and recover in 3 to 5 days. Luli studied for another 2 days. Even though he had completely mastered the profound meaning of frost, he felt the profound meaning was of little value. After this profound meaning was released, snow and ice would fall from the sky, and the surrounding temperature would drop drastically. If it was an ordinary martial artist, they would probably be frozen to death in an instant, but a powerful martial artist could barely resist it. As long as they could withstand it, the powerful martial artist would quickly leave the area covered in ice and snow. It was already heaven-defying that his profound meaning of extreme cold could cover an area of 1,000,000 miles, right? If he was a paragon, he would be able to escape in a few breaths. For the time for a few breaths, Luli believed that even the weakest of the perfect warriors wouldn't be affected. As long as they could leave the area covered in ice and snow, the profound meaning would be of no use. The profound meaning left behind by a main god is actually useless? Luli was confused. Clearly, this space was built by the Ice Empress. The laws of heaven and earth here were clear. Luli could understand this law easily. What did this mean? This meant that there was a high chance that the Ice Empress had purposely left this behind. The Tao runes left behind by a Lord God for future generations to comprehend was actually a useless law? How could Luli not be surprised? Luli was very disappointed that he had lost his status as a sovereign. Luli had thought that the fundamental laws would be very powerful, so powerful that it could suppress those at the consummate level. Only now did he realize that he had thought too much. The laws and profound mysteries left behind by a sovereign are actually so weak? This shouldn't be the case. Could it be that I didn't find the right direction? Could it be that I comprehended wrongly? Or does this place contain other powerful true meanings? Luli was deep in thought. After a moment, he remembered something. The cold air in the Ice Queen Palace of the Ice River came from this world. What did it mean? This meant that it contained the origin of ice and snow. This meant that there was definitely more than just the profound meaning of extreme cold. There was definitely a very powerful profound meaning of law. If I can comprehend this law of nature's profundity that releases cold air, perhaps I'll be able to possess the battle prowess to suppress ordinary great perfection deities. Not even Bei Xian could stand the cold air here. Jin Yen and the others were sealed and frozen easily. If Luli could comprehend the origin of ice and snow law here, he would be able to defeat ordinary great perfection deities. Of course, he could not do that to Koan Mo. The cold air here didn't even affect Koan Mo. How could he do that? Is there such a possibility? Luli thought of another possibility. In order to enter this world, he had to gain the initial approval of the Ice Queen. For example, he had to be able to withstand the cold air or use an almighty artifact. Only with the initial approval could he enter this world of ice and snow. This was the second test of entering this world of ice and snow. If he could not comprehend the profound meaning of extreme cold, then he would die. Only by understanding the profound meaning of extreme cold could he pass the second test and continue to study the origin of ice and snow? Origin of ice and snow law. The more Luli thought about it, the more he felt it was possible. He felt that the cold air here didn't come from the outside by chance. It must have been set up by the Ice Queen. That was to say, the Ice Queen might have let the cold air out on purpose to expose this place and lead others in. To lead warriors that could withstand the cold air or powerful warriors that cultivated the ice and snow law to inherit her legacy. Otherwise, how could the cold air in this world of ice and snow leak out with the Ice Queen's means? If that is the case, Luli was excited. If it was as he thought, then he would have the chance to learn the fundamental meaning of the ice and snow law. Once he succeeded, his combat abilities would soar and he would be able to defeat a group of warriors at the absolute completion realm. He was greatly affected by what happened this time. He had thought that once he became the most powerful warrior below the absolute completion realm, he would have nothing to worry about. After Jin Yen and the others showed up, he realized that he wasn't that powerful. He might be able to run away, but the Lu family and the Lu alliance couldn't. They could all die at any time. Absolute completion was absolute completion. Luli had the ability to challenge them, but that didn't mean he could defeat them. Also, his real enemy this time was not Jin Yen and the others, but Bei Xian, the king of the northern region. If he didn't improve his combat abilities, then he would forever be like a mouse hiding in the gutter. Now that the king of the eastern region was still alive, Bei Xian dared to mess around. What if the king of the eastern region was dead? By then, there might be dozens of absolute completion realm warriors chasing after him and Little White. Even if the fact that he had an overgod weapon was exposed, it might attract other realm kings to come after him. After what happened this time, he once again had a strong desire for strength. His fighting spirit was ignited. Learn. Luli became excited. He had to find a way to learn what the Ice Queen had left in this world of ice and snow. If he didn't improve his combat abilities, he would never be able to get out. Even if he did, he would be hunted down by Bei Xian. To Luli, a long time had passed. The king of the eastern region must have received the news. If the king of the eastern region wanted to save him, he would have been here a long time ago. Therefore, he could only rely on himself now. Remember the mobile website. Chapter 37:19. Family Patriarch, Lu Xiaobai has arrived at the Empyrean region. He will be here in half a month. On a mountain outside the Ice River Valley, Bei Yang reported, Chief Patriarch and the others are ahead of us. They will take the teleportation formation and will be here in a couple of days. Sitting on the peak, Bei Luan opened his eyes. He nodded and asked, "Where are Yun and the others?" "They are behind us as well," Bei Yang said with certainty. "They should be 8 days away from Lu Xiaobai and Qi Shishir. Lu Xiaobai and Qi Shishir have specter ships as well. Yun and the others cannot catch up with them." "That's good." Bei Luan waved his hand and said, "Keep an eye on Lu Xiaobai. Tell the 3 at the Absolute Realm to follow him. Don't get too close and don't get noticed." Bei Yang thought about it and said, "Family Patriarch, how about we take him down now? If we can take Lu Xiaobai down, the old heaven-swallowing beast will have to show up. If he doesn't, he will have to come." "Do not alert him." Bei Luan waved his hand and said, "If the old heaven-swallowing beast is here, all the at the Absolute Realm will die if we take action now. If the old heaven-swallowing beast is not here, how can Koan Mo take action? Also, those 2 aren't people that I can mobilize, so it's better for us to stay here and wait." "Understood." Bei Yang left to make the arrangements. When Lu Xiaobai and the others arrived at the Empyrean region, they thought flying was too slow. They went to a large universe and teleported all the way here. He had revealed his identity in public. Who would dare to disrespect him? They couldn't wait to curry favor, not to mention offending Lu Xiaobai. A few days later, Bei Luan and the others came. Bei Luan brought Jin Yan and the others, as well as Emperor Li and the others to pay a visit to Bei Xian. Bei Xian made an exception to receive Emperor Li and Emperor Yu and gave them some words of encouragement. Emperor Li and Emperor Yu were so excited that they kowtowed to Bei Xian. "Let the warriors out and lock them in the Ice Valley." Bei Xian gave the order and Bei Luan carried it out. They flew into the Ice Valley and let out the warriors of the Grim Reaper. There was no more cold air coming out of the Ice River Valley. After Lu Li went into the statue, the cold air stopped. That being said, the temperature in the Ice River Valley was still low. Many warriors were not powerful, and they were shivering in the cold. The Ice River Valley did not activate the divine script, so they could easily fly out. However, no cultivator dared to flee, not a single one of them dared to move. There were a few great perfection deities in the valley, so they couldn't escape even if they wanted to. They could only look around anxiously, not knowing where they were or what their fates would be. "Everyone, enter the cave!" Jin Yan shouted with a murderous aura. "Those who don't listen will be killed without mercy." Jin Yan was a homicidal maniac. Those martial artists obediently chose a cave to enter. There were many caves here for the slaves to live in, and they could accommodate 10 million warriors. The remaining warriors were piled up in the small city, and those who couldn't fit would sit cross-legged in the Ice River Valley. Bei Luan told Gang Yu to build some divine script formations. It would be better to build several formations in case the warriors would take the chance to escape. It would be troublesome to chase them down. Gang Yu set up 2 runes. One covered the entire Ice River, and the other blocked the entrance of the cave to prevent warriors from going in and to prevent Lu Li from sneaking out quietly. With that done, a group of powerful warriors guarded around the valley. All of them went into hiding. Only Emperor Li and Emperor Yu stayed above the valley with a group of patriarchs of the Grim Reaper and Great Patriarchs. Emperor Li and the others had no other choice. They had to follow the Bei family to the bitter end. Soon, 10 days passed. Lu Xiaobai and the others were teleported over. They were only half a day away. The Great Perfection Realm warriors here were nervous. Even Bei Xian was nervous. Bei Xian went into hiding. He didn't dare to show up in public. He was afraid that the king of the eastern region would sneak up on him. Koan Mo was in the Ice Queen Palace. He couldn't be saved even if he wanted to. Bei Luan and Bei Yang went into hiding. Only Jin Yan showed up. It was as if he was the mastermind. Jin Yan threw caution to the wind. There was no place for him at the eastern region anyway. He had to follow Bei Xian. They were bound together for good or bad. Half a day later, Lu Xiaobai and Qi Shishir arrived at the ancient city of rhinos. They asked for directions and took out the battleship. They flew toward the Ice River Valley. The battleship was fast. In just over a day, they arrived at the Ice River Valley. As they approached the Ice River Valley, Little White and Qi Shishir checked with psychic power. They are here. Lu Xiaobai was relieved to see that there were many warriors in the Ice River Valley, as well as Emperor Li and Empress Yu. As long as the hostages were alive, nothing else mattered. He frowned after a quick look. He recognized some from the Lu Alliance, but none of Lu Li's family members were here. Whoosh! The battleship flew on and soon arrived at the Ice River Valley. A man came out from the battleship. It was the Great Perfection Realm warrior who was guarding Qi Shishir. The warrior said, "Lady Lu, young Master Bai, there are many Great Perfection Realm warriors over there. Don't go." Many Great Perfection Realm warriors? Lu Xiaobai frowned. He was impulsive, but he was not stupid. There were so many Great Perfection Realm warriors here, and so many hostages had been captured. Not even a fool would believe that the enemies were not plotting something. Lu Xiaobai was not afraid of the pride of the sky-swallowing beast. The king of the eastern region's invincible record gave Lu Xiaobai courage and confidence. He thought for a while and said, "Shishir, stay here. Thank you for coming with me. I will reward you handsomely after this." Qi Shishir glared at him and said, "Lu Xiaobai, what do you think I am? Now that I have come with you, I will be with you to the end no matter what. Are you looking down on me?" Qi Shishir's words had a deeper meaning that Lu Xiaobai did not understand. Still, he was touched. He cupped his fists again and said, "Shishir, thank you for your kindness. But this has nothing to do with you. You don't have to take the risk. If anything happens to you, I will not be able to answer to your parent." "Answer for what?" Qi Shishir snorted and said, "I will take responsibility for my own matters. If I die, you will die with me. Isn't that giving me an explanation? Aren't you the invincible sky-swallowing beast? You can't even protect a weak girl like me?" This, Lu Xiaobai smiled awkwardly. Qi Shishir wanted him to die for her. He scratched his head and did not want to care so much. He nodded and said, "All right. If you die, I will die with you. Okay? But will your Great Perfection Realm warrior let you go?" Qi Shishir looked at the Great Perfection Realm warrior, who said expressionlessly, "Miss, you can go. But if there is danger, I will take you away by force. This is an order from the king. I cannot go against it." "Let's go, let's go." Qi Shishir waved her hand. Lu Xiaobai did not want to care so much. He shot out from the warship, and Qi Shishir and the others followed closely behind. They arrived above the Ice River Valley. The hidden Great Perfection Realm warriors did not show themselves. Only Emperor Li and Emperor Yu were there. When Lu Xiaobai saw Emperor Li and Emperor Yu, killing intent surged from his body. Without saying anything, he took out a supreme divine weapon and slashed at Emperor Li's head. Remember the mobile website. Chapter 37:20. Emperor Li was startled by the flash of the saber. This was a supreme weapon and Lu Xiaobai was very strong. He should have made a lot of progress after a period of seclusion. The saber was too fast. From the sound and the cracks in space, it was obvious that it was very fierce and terrifying. Emperor Li didn't dare to defend or fight back. This was the son of the king of the East region. He flashed and wanted to retreat. But at this moment the space fluctuated slightly. Then, an invisible force pressed down. Emperor Li and Emperor Yu couldn't move, nor could Little White. Jin Yen flashed out. He looked at Lu Xiaobai coldly and said, "Lu Xiaobai, you've got guts." Buzzing, Gang Yu and the others also flashed out. 7 perfected cultivators came out at once. The perfected cultivators next to Qi Shishir immediately stood in front of Qi Shishir and those who were infinitely close to perfected cultivators, as if they were facing a great enemy. Lu Xiaobai's face was filled with anger, but unfortunately, he couldn't speak. His mouth kept squirming as he made some sounds. Jin Yen took a few glances and waved his hand. The heaven and earth energy that enveloped Little White weakened a little. Jin Yen said coldly, "Lu Xiaobai, what do you want to say?" "Old demon Jin." Little White was furious when he could speak. "Who do you think you are? How dare you treat me like this? You wagged your tail and begged me in East King City. How dare you attack me now? Aren't you afraid that my father will kill you?" "Ha ha ha!" Jin Yen laughed and said, "Lu Xiaobai, who do you think your father is? He was like a dog under my ancestor's banner. If it wasn't for my ancestor, how could he have become the king of the East region? He's just an ingrate and a villain." "Ha ha!" Little White laughed angrily. "I don't want to talk nonsense with you. Kill me if you dare and I'll admit that you're a man." "You think I don't dare?" Jin Yen showed his white teeth. Suddenly, he stretched out his hand and slapped at Lu Xiaobai. Boom! With a boom, Lu Xiaobai was slapped down. Blood came out of many places on his body. He was seriously injured with just one slap. Little White. Qi Shirshir panicked when she saw that Little White was injured. In a flash, she was about to fly towards Little White. However, how could a full perfection realm expert who was protecting her allow Qi Shirshir to act recklessly? With a flash, he caught Qi Shirshir. Buzz. After that, Jin Yen suppressed Whitey with the power of heaven and earth. Then, he looked at Qi Shirshir and said, "Qi Shirshir, this has nothing to do with you. Don't get involved. If you want to get involved, you'd better ask your family's king if he's willing to get involved. Do you have the guts to get involved?" Qi Shirshir was enraged. He humphed coldly and said, "Jin Yen, right? I'll remember what you said. Our profound realm will definitely repay you when we get back." Jin Yen was not afraid at all. He already knew Bei Xian's entire plan for this matter. If the plan went smoothly, the king of the eastern region might even be killed. At that time, the king of the northern region's fame would skyrocket. With the northern region joining forces with the Kuan region, they would be able to do whatever they wanted in the immortal realms. What was there for him to fear if he followed Bei Xian? The overall strength of the profound realm wasn't that strong. Jin Yen looked at the great perfection stage in front of Qi Shirshir and said, "Lu Shan, right? Take your young mistress and leave. Don't get involved in this matter. Otherwise, if your young mistress dies here, you won't be able to explain yourself when you go back." Jin Yen waved his hand, and Tongshuan, Gang Yue, and another great perfection stage immediately rushed over, revealing faint killing intent. Their meaning was clear. If they didn't leave, they would attack. They might not dare to kill Qi Shirshir, but they definitely wouldn't show mercy to this great perfection stage. Qi Shirshir was about to say something, but the great perfection stage's hand suddenly flashed and slapped the back of her neck. Qi Shirshir immediately fainted. The great perfection stage glanced at the other accompanying martial artists and said, "Let's go." Those were Qi Shirshir's guards. Naturally, they didn't dare to stay in such a situation. If Qi Shirshir died, then all of them would die. Their clansmen would also be in a terrible state. Qi Shirshir was very important to them. She was a heavenly enchantment immortal fox. They didn't know the reason behind this matter, but they knew that under normal circumstances, no martial artist would dare to kill Qi Shirshir. It would completely anger the Profound Realm King, which was equivalent to fighting to the death with the Profound Realm. Therefore, they didn't care where Qi Shirshir went. They just followed her. Anyway, nothing would happen. Now, they felt that something was wrong with the situation. They smelled the scent of a conspiracy. Lu Xiaobai was obviously lured here. With so many great perfection stage experts here, there was naturally a conspiracy. This great perfection stage expert sensed that there weren't only Jin Yen and the others here. There were also a few faintly discernible auras. It was very likely that there were a few extremely powerful Great Perfection Stage experts hiding nearby. What were so many Great Perfection Stage experts doing here? Did they have nothing to do after eating their fill? Jin Yen clearly said that the Profound Realm couldn't get involved in this matter. Furthermore, he dared to injure Lu Xiaobai. Wasn't he afraid of the Eastern Region King's revenge? Could it be that he was tired of living? Jin Yen obviously wasn't tired of living. With this deduction, even the Great Perfection Stage expert of the Profound Realm felt afraid. If Jin Yen dared to do this, it was very likely that they were secretly plotting to get rid of the Eastern Region King. This matter was too big. They really couldn't get involved. Not to mention the Profound Realm King. What kind of existence was the Eastern Region King? Was it so easy to get rid of the Eastern Region King? If they didn't have the confidence, would they dare to do this? If they had the confidence, then this matter was really big. This matter wasn't something that the Northern Region King could do alone. There must be other experts involved. The Great Perfection Stage of the Profound Realm left quickly and didn't dare to stay. He directly flew towards the Immortal Domain. After leaving the ancient Rhino Realm, he took out his battleship and quickly disappeared in the distant void. Lu Xiaobai had been suppressed all this time. His eyes were filled with anger and a trace of surprise. He wasn't stupid, but his personality was more straightforward. He finally felt that something was wrong. Jin Yen and the others brought the hostage from far away. It seemed that they wanted to lure him here. After they lured him here, they directly suppressed him and even injured him. This matter was big. They were prepared to completely fall out with the Eastern region. Since they dared to fall out with him, they must have something to rely on. He hadn't broken through to the Great Perfection Stage. For those experts, he was nothing. If he couldn't break through to the Great Perfection Stage, he was just an ant. Therefore, Bei Xian definitely wasn't targeting him. It went without saying who he was targeting. PFFF blood suddenly spurted out of Little White's mouth. Then, his aura suddenly increased. His body shone with white light, and he suddenly changed back to his original form. Then, a huge phantom appeared above his head. His stomach expanded and contracted, and he breathed out a stream of air towards Jin Yen. Heaven-swallowing divine skill. Little White actually forcefully changed back to his original form under the suppression of the Great Perfection Stage. Moreover, he brazenly used the heaven-swallowing divine skill against a Great Perfection Stage expert. He didn't want to kill Jin Yen. Instead, he wanted to anger Jin Yen so that Jin Yen would kill him. He looked carefree on the surface, but he knew that although the Eastern Region King seemed to be indifferent to him, the Eastern Region King actually doted on him a lot. He could feel the Eastern Region King's love for him. Therefore, he naturally didn't want the Eastern Region King to die because of him. If he died, Bei Xian wouldn't have a hostage. The Eastern Region King wouldn't hesitate to attack. At least, he could fight with all his strength. Chapter 37:21. Little White had been suppressed all this while. When it suddenly released the swallowing heaven divine skill, the nearby experts were caught unprepared. By the time Jin Yen reacted, the air current had already enveloped him. A powerful suction force pulled him in, and he was about to be swallowed into the stomach of the heaven-swallowing beast. Jin Yen instinctively reacted. A long spear appeared in his hand, and he immediately activated his divine power. Specks of blue light appeared on the long spear. The blue light gave Emperor Li and the others an extremely terrifying feeling of oppression. It was as if this was the strongest energy in the world. Consummate source divine power. Emperor Li and Emperor Yu, as well as those experts who were infinitely close to the consummate level, revealed looks of envy. The amazing thing about full circle cultivation was not just the fact that they could control the powers of the heaven and earth. There was also the source power of full circle cultivation. This was the strongest power in the world, with the exception of chief gods. Chief gods were outside of the 5 elements and were not within the rules. There was no need for him to release the source god power of the Great Perfection Realm in particular. All he had to do was bring a little bit of it with him when he attacked, and that attack would be able to destroy everything in its path. Whitey's heaven-swallowing divine skill was very strong, but it wasn't at the level of the king of the eastern region. Furthermore, its realm was too low. This heaven-swallowing divine skill could deal with martial artists who were infinitely close to the Great Perfection Realm, but it would be difficult to deal with the Great Perfection Realm. Jin Yen did not even think of a way to get rid of the swallowing heaven divine skill and directly used his spear to attack Lu Xiaobai's main body. He already hated the king of the eastern region to the bone, and now he hated Little White as well. This spear strike was filled with rage, and it used the source god power of the Great Perfection Realm. He wanted to kill Lu Xiaobai right away. "Stop!" An imposing voice rang out in Jin Yan's ears. At the same time, a powerful force pressed down. Jin Yan knew that Bei Xian had made a move. If he continued to attack, Bei Xian would attack him. With his spear in hand, the power of heaven and earth surged in all directions, and his body broke free of the Heaven Devourer divine skill's restraints. Boom! However, he released a phantom image with his spear and smashed it at Lu Xiaobai. Xiaobai's small body was smashed to the ground. Many parts of its body were covered in blood. It was a tragic sight. The image above its head also disappeared. "Looks like the old heaven-devouring beast isn't nearby," Bei Xian said faintly with his hands behind his back. At the side, Bei Luan sensed the surroundings and nodded. Yes, if the old heaven-devouring beast is nearby, he would definitely make a move when he sees this situation. He loves his precious son the most. Let Jin Yen torture him again, but don't kill him. Bei Xian closed his eyes and continued to sense, holding a jade talisman in his hand. As long as the king of the eastern region arrived, he would immediately crush the jade talisman. He and the other paragons would only need to hold on for a moment, and Koen Mo would be able to come out of the Ice Queen Palace. Jin Yen received the order. The spear in his hand trembled continuously, releasing phantoms that smashed towards Lu Xiaobai. Lu Xiaobai was already seriously injured, and after being attacked by a perfected Perfection Realm expert, it became even more injured. However, after being attacked 7 or 8 times, Whitey no longer had an intact bone in its body. All the bones in its body had been smashed. Little White was still being suppressed, unable to move. This time, it was continuously ravaged. It was a tragic sight. All of its white fur was dyed red with blood. It couldn't even let out a miserable cry, only weak whimpering sounds could be heard. At this moment, many warriors of the Lu Alliance had spread out their psychic power. They had all heard about Luli and Little White. In their hearts, Little White was half a master. Now that they saw Little White being ravaged like this, many disciples of the Lu Alliance wished they could kill their way out and tear Jin Yen apart. In the end, they didn't do anything because they couldn't even break the divine glyphs, let alone kill Jin Yen. After a few more attacks, Little White was already on the verge of death. Bei Xian thought about it and ordered, "Let Gang Yu and Tong Sun bring Lu Xiaobai into the cave at the entrance of the Ice Queen Palace. If the king of the eastern region forces his way in, let them kill Lu Xiaobai." Gang Yu and Tong Sun received the order and didn't hesitate. They followed Bei Xian. This situation was equivalent to going against the king of the eastern region. They had no other choice but to follow this path to the end. Either they killed the king of the eastern region, or they were all crushed into pieces. The 2 paragons carried Little White. Gang Yu activated the divine glyphs and entered the cave in a flash. With 2 paragons watching, no matter how Little White struggled, it could be easily suppressed. It was extremely safe in the cave. Even if the king of the eastern region wanted to kill his way in, he would have to break the divine glyphs first, right? Once the divine glyphs were broken, It was impossible not to alert those paragons. Very good. After Little White was brought in, Bei Xian revealed a satisfied smile. Since Lu Xiaobai was captured, the king of the eastern region had no choice but to come. Once the king of the eastern region came, he would be trapped. There were 9 realm kings in the immortal region, but 4 of them came here, including the extremely powerful king of the Kuan region. This would be the burial ground of the king of the eastern region. He, Bei Xian, would also become famous in the world because of this battle. Together with the Kuan region, the northern region would welcome tens of thousands of years of peace if nothing went wrong. He would also be able to obtain the Master Artifact and search for the Master God's ruins to increase his battle strength. In the end, he would become a peerless expert comparable to Kuan Mo perfect. Bei Xian was completely relaxed. With Lu Xiaobai as a hostage, and the unique terrain of the Ice Queen Palace, no matter how many paragons came, they would not be able to save Lu Xiaobai. They could only attack by force. Bei Xian thought about it and was still worried. He ordered again, gather another 3 paragons to hide in the cave. Once there are enemies invading, let them fight with all their might. We will stay outside. Okay. Bei Xian nodded and went to make the arrangements. This passage was only so big, and with 3 paragons guarding it, it was impossible for the king of the eastern region to sneak in without anyone noticing. As long as they had a hostage, the king of the eastern region would be cautious, and it would be easier to kill them then. Pay close attention to old Ghost Yun and the rest. After Bei Luan made the arrangements, Bei Xian said, "When they are close, inform me immediately. I will personally kill them all." Since the battle had already started, there was no need to be so careful. Lord Yun was the most loyal subordinate of the king of the eastern region, and he was extremely powerful. He had to be killed, or it would bring endless trouble to the northern region. Even if the king of the eastern region died and Lord Yun escaped, many of the Bei family's clansmen would probably be assassinated by them. Bei Luan knew the importance of this matter and immediately made arrangements to closely monitor Lord Yun and the rest. Lord Yun and the rest had already entered the territory of Tianyu Galaxy. They would probably choose to teleport all the way here instead of flying, just like before. As expected, a day later, Bei Luan received news that Lord Yun and the rest had already entered Tianyu Galaxy. They had also arrived at an astral boundary and started teleporting. Their destination was also the Ice River Valley. If they teleported all the way here, it would probably only take a few days. Family King, bad news. 3 days later, Bei Luan hurried over and reported, Old Ghost Yun and the rest could have teleported here in 2 days at most, but they suddenly disappeared half a day ago. Chapter 37:22. The news must have been leaked. Bei Xian deduced after receiving the report. It couldn't be helped. All the great clans in the Tianyu Star region were paying attention to this place. Although there were no scouts nearby, the commotion here would still attract the attention of many great clans. Lord Yun would then be able to deduce some information. Lord Yun was the chief steward of the eastern region. There must be spies and spies in the 8 major star regions. It was normal for Lord Yun to deduce some information. Bei Xian regretted secretly. If he had known this would happen, he would have secretly brought a few perfected ones with him. He was worried that the king of the eastern region was with Lord Yun and would be assassinated. Lu Xiaobai was also here. What if he was rescued? Forget it. Bei Xian waved his hand. He would kill the king of the eastern region first, and then find a way to kill old Devil Yun and the others. It would just be a little troublesome, but it would not affect the overall situation. No, Bei Xian suddenly said, send a message back and gather more perfected ones. Also, send the more important members of the clan to hide in the ancestral land for a while. If old Devil Yun gathered all the perfected ones from the eastern region, it would be a great hindrance to us. By then, the king of the eastern region would have help. Even if he couldn't suppress the situation, at least I would be in danger. Bei Xian had never thought of gathering a large number of perfected ones. Now that Lord Yun and the others had suddenly disappeared, he felt the pressure. Lord Yun and the others had 10 perfected ones, and Lord Yun's combat strength was very strong. He would be a great hindrance to him. Once they knew that Xiaobai had been captured, they would probably mobilize all the perfected ones from the eastern region. By then, the situation would be out of control. With Quan Mo around, the chance of killing the king of the eastern region was very high. However, the possibility of him being killed by the king of the eastern region was also very high. Thus, he had to make some preparations and mobilize a large number of perfected ones. Once he mobilized a large number of perfected ones, the northern region would be very empty and could be easily attacked by the eastern region. He had to make preparations in advance. Yes. Bei Luan went to pass the order. Bei Xian became a little nervous. Everything was going according to plan, but now it seemed to be off track. Lord Yun and the others were missing. The king of the eastern region would probably know soon. The old heaven-swallowing beast would probably rush over immediately. The battle would be triggered at any moment. Bei Yang, Bei Luan ordered, arrange for the scouts in the eastern region to pay close attention. Report to me immediately if there's any movement over there. After Bei Yang went down to pass the order, Bei Luan became very excited. His complexion became rosy and he was in high spirit. This battle was too important to him. It was a battle that would change his life. If he succeeded in this battle, the Bei family would rise rapidly, and his name would spread throughout the world. He would also have the chance to rule the world like Quan Mo, the Eastern Region King. Immortal Domain, East King City. The king of the Eastern Region didn't chase after Little White. Instead, he stayed in East King City. It was not that he did not care about Little White, but he felt that this matter was a little strange. He even suspected that Qi Shishir had been instructed by someone behind the scenes. During this period of time, he had been mobilizing the forces in the eastern region to investigate the situation. Lord Yun and the others had suddenly disappeared, not because Lord Yun had sensed something, but because he had given the order. The king of the eastern region was able to suppress more than half of the immortal region not only because of his powerful combat strength, but also because of his wisdom. Just like back then when he went to kill the king of the origin region, he didn't just charge in like an idiot. Instead, he attacked with a plan and strategy. In the end, he won the battle. Although Bei Xian and the others had locked down the Ice River Valley, Jin Yen and the others had left with the hostages from the ancestral ground of Death God, and Little White had chased after them. The king of the eastern region could smell a conspiracy. He didn't stop Little White because no matter how fast he was, he couldn't reach the Ice River Valley before Little White. Therefore, he started to investigate the situation in the other regions of the immortal region. Rustle, 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 in the East King Tower, an old man with a hunched back walked up and bowed to the East King. Master, the young master has been captured. The great perfection cultivator of Qi Shishir's side sent a message. He sensed at least a dozen great perfection cultivators. Jin Yen suppressed the young master. Yes. The king of the eastern region was expressionless, as if the one who was captured wasn't his only son. He didn't say anything and pondered. After a moment, he said, "Let old he and the others do it quickly. Split them into 2 groups and return immediately after they succeed." Yes. The old man bowed and left. The king of the eastern region raised his head slightly and looked at the sky. Quan Mo Bei Xian. Since you want to play, I'll play a big game with you. A few teleportation altars in the East King City suddenly lit up at the same time. The light shot up into the sky. These were super large teleportation altars. It was obvious that they were going to teleport to a faraway place. These teleportation altars wouldn't be used easily. Only the upper echelons of the eastern region had the right to use them. The movement here immediately alerted the scouts in all directions. In addition to the rumors, the immortal region was already very nervous. All the major forces in the 8 major star fields had scouts lying in ambush. What happened in the heavenly chaotic star field and the Tianyu star field couldn't be hidden. Even if they didn't know the details, they would definitely be able to guess something. A day later, the teleportation altars in the Kuan King City and the North King City lit up. Then, great perfection cultivators suddenly appeared in the altars. Then, a few of these great perfection cultivators actually attacked. The other great perfection cultivators followed suit. 10 great perfection cultivators came from the North King City. 25 great perfection cultivators came from the Kuan King City. In an instant, the 2 cities were in chaos. The King City was connected to each other by teleportation altars. Usually, these altars wouldn't be closed. The powerhouses of the North King City and the Kuan King City never expected that a group of great perfection cultivators would suddenly come from the East King City. Moreover, as soon as they teleported, they attacked without a word of nonsense. The great perfection cultivators from the North King City had just left. The elders of the Bei family were also organizing the immediate family members to leave. They were caught unprepared. There were only 3 great perfection cultivators guarding the huge North King City. But there were 10 great perfection cultivators from the eastern region. The result was self-evident: boom, 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 the North King City turned into ruins. This time, East King had secretly ordered that no one in the North King City would be spared. The immortal beasts didn't care at all. They slaughtered wantonly. Other than the immediate family members of the Bei family, everyone else was killed. Under the surprise attack of 10 great perfection cultivators, the 3 great perfection cultivators guarding the city didn't last long before they were killed. Coincidentally, the immediate family members of the Bei family were all gathered in the North King City. This time, they were all wiped out. Thousands of the immediate family members were suppressed and then captured. Let's go. After the great perfection cultivator leading the team was done, he activated the teleportation altar and returned to the East King City. The teleportation altar shone brightly. Apart from the palaces near the teleportation altar and a few main halls, the rest of the huge North King City was razed to the ground. Tens of millions of martial artists living in the North King City were all killed. The Kuan King City was slightly better. Kuan Mo didn't mobilize the Kuan race's formidable martial artists. Thus, there were more than 10 great perfection cultivators guarding the Kuan King City. Unfortunately, there were 25 from the eastern region. The process might be a little tragic, but the outcome was the same. 2 hours later, the Kuan King City was destroyed. 2 of the great perfection cultivators from the eastern region were killed. The remaining martial artists led the immediate family members of the Kuan race back to the eastern region. The news spread within a day. The entire celestial domain was in an uproar. Chapter 37:23. The East region attacked both regions at the same time, and it was a ruthless move. Both royal cities were destroyed, and only a small number of martial artists managed to escape. The rest were all killed. This attack was too ruthless. This was already an irreconcilable enmity. No matter what, there was no way to reconcile. Only a debt of blood could be resolved. If the East region was only at war with the North region, it was understandable. It was hard to understand that the Kuan King City was massacred. As everyone knew, the king of the East region was not a match for Kuan Mo and was almost killed by him. The king of the East region dared to provoke Kuan Mo? He even provoked the Kuan region and the North region at the same time. Was the king of the East crazy? Could it be that he was tired of living and wanted to die early? Did he want to go on a grand journey? Things should be different from what they looked like. Countless great clans remembered the incident between the heavenly chaotic star field and the Tianyu star field. The great clans vaguely understood that it was Kuan Mo and Bei Xian who provoked the king of the East region first. Was the king of the East taking revenge? No matter what the truth was, something big was about to happen. This battle would definitely change the power structure of the immortal domain. The king of the East region was so ruthless that it would definitely end in a fight to the death. Either the king of the East would be killed, or Bei Xian and Kuan Mo would be killed. Of course, no one thought that the king of the East region could win. Even if the East region fought against the Kuan region, it was very likely that the king of the East region would lose, let alone two realms. Now, many great clans were thinking about one question: who would rule the East region after the death of the king of the East region? Many great clans were ready to make a move. After the death of the king of the East region, the immortal beasts in the East region would probably be massacred, and there would be a power vacuum in the East region. Any great force could easily occupy the East region, but it would be difficult to defend it. How could such a huge territory be defended without a powerful clan or force? Many great clans and forces began to secretly unite. One clan would definitely not be able to take over the East region. In order to take over the East region, the only way was to unite and divide the East region's territory. Especially in the Southern Territory and the Mystic Territory, which were adjacent to the Eastern Territory, many great clans and forces were eager to make a move. All of them wanted to become a new territory king clan. The East region was in chaos. This was especially true for the small clans and powers. They were in a constant state of panic. The king of the Eastern region was too bold. He actually dared to attack two territories and even massacred their royal city. The group of great perfection deities hurriedly bowed and begged for forgiveness. The king of the Eastern region waved his hand and said, "There's no need to explain anything. I just want to say that this matter wasn't started by me. Little White was captured by them, so I could only give them a tooth for a tooth. If you don't want to get involved in the following matters, you can immediately withdraw and make an announcement that you were coerced into this matter and have nothing to do with it. Or you can denounce me. What if I ask you to reduce the risk? If I win this time, I won't pursue the matter. If I die in battle, I will definitely find a way to kill either Kuan Mo or Bei Xian. At that time, there will definitely be a super powerhouse coming to occupy the Eastern region. You can just rely on him." "Realm King, I'll go with you." A great perfection deity immediately expressed his stance. He grinned wildly and said, "I'll follow the clan king for the rest of my life. Even if I die, it'll be worth it. It's no big deal. I've already settled the clan, so I can happily follow the Realm King into battle." "Realm King," a brawny man with red hair said in a low voice, "our Eastern region has suppressed half of the celestial realm for hundreds of thousands of years. This time, we're even challenging two realms. How can I, old Ho, miss such a grand occasion? On the path of martial arts, death is fate. There's nothing much to say. One word, fight." Following that, a few more great perfection deities expressed their stance, but the rest were silent. They had many hot-blooded youths. A few words could sway them to the point of being on steroids. This was not a game. Most importantly, there was Kuan Mo. Back then, the king of the Eastern region had almost been killed by Kuan Mo. Could the king of the Eastern region be a match for Kuan Mo now? Of the 30 or so great perfection deities, 11 finally spoke. The rest did not speak and lowered their heads, clearly unwilling to get involved in this matter. The king of the Eastern region waved his hand, and those great perfection deities who did not speak retreated. They then quickly teleported out of East King City. After the group of great perfection deities left, the king of the Eastern region spoke again. "All of you, go back and prepare. We'll depart in 10 days. Those who want to come can come. Those who don't, I won't force you, nor will I blame you. We're all old brothers, so you know my personality. Go. Yes. The 11 great perfection deities quickly retreated to prepare. Of course, no one knew how many great perfection deities would follow the king of the eastern region to battle. What if these 11 great perfection deities went back on their word? As expected, 10 days later, only 8 of the 11 great perfection deities came. Including the 2 from East King City, there were a total of 10 great perfection deities. The king of the eastern region was very satisfied. He did not need to make any arrangements, because he did not have a clan and only had one son. If he won, then the entire eastern region would still be his. If he lost, then what was there to arrange? Chapter 37:24. What? Outside the Ice River Valley, Bei Xian almost exploded when he received the news from the northern region. He stared at Beiluan and roared, "Are you sure the news is accurate?" Beiluan's face was full of anger and hatred. He said sorrowfully, "Tribe King, do you think I would dare to say such things? The news has been confirmed. Not only us, but the Kuan King city has also suffered. The city has been destroyed, and many direct descendants of the Kuan race have been captured. Is the old heaven-swallowing beast crazy?" Bei Xian could no longer maintain his poise. He stood up and paced back and forth on the mountain peak. Murderous aura surged from his body as he murmured, "This old beast doesn't want to live anymore? He doesn't want his son anymore? Does he want to drag us down with him?" After pacing twice, he turned and asked, "How many of the race have been captured and killed?" "A lot," Beiluan blinked and said, "The North King city has been destroyed. About 10 million people in the city have been killed. Tens of thousands of direct descendants have died, and thousands of core descendants have been captured." At first, Bei Xian thought that only a portion had been slaughtered. After hearing this news, his lips trembled and his eyes turned red. He was like a wild beast that was about to go crazy. He raised his head and roared, "Old beast, I swear I won't rest until I kill you. I swear I won't rest until I kill you." "Beiluan!" Bei Xian suddenly roared, "Bring the little heaven-swallowing beast out. I want to skin him alive and cut his son into pieces. Otherwise, I won't be able to vent my hatred." A terrifying murderous aura suddenly erupted from Bei Xian. This murderous aura enveloped a radius of 10,000 miles. The hostages in the Ice River Valley were all shrouded by the murderous aura. They were all trembling in fear, like rabbits encountering their natural enemy. It made them feel fear from the depths of their souls. Emperor Li and the others were also frightened. How could they withstand the murderous aura released by the king of the northern region? Some great perfection deities were also afraid that the enraged king of the northern region would vent his anger on them. "Tribe King, calm down." Beiluan didn't carry out the order but tried to persuade him. Bei Xian was a little irrational now. If he killed Lu Xiaobai, then there would be no hostages here. Could the king of the east be restrained by the Grim Reaper hostages? Once the king of the east's son died, he would become even crazier. At that time, the situation might not necessarily develop as they had planned, and they might even fail on the verge of success. Whoosh whoosh, Bei Xian took a few deep breaths and closed his eyes to rest for the time it took for an incense stick to burn. Only then did he ask, "Where are the hostages now?" He didn't even need to ask to know that the hostages were basically his people, the ones who lived in the North Palace. They were all his elders and descendants, his brothers and sisters, his sons and daughters, his grandchildren, and his old mother. He had a few sons outside. Even if these few sons were fine, the rest of them in North King City were probably in trouble. What pained him the most were the millions of clansmen in the city. Their clansmen numbered in the hundreds of millions. Those who could stay in the North King City were definitely elite. Now that all these elites were dead, The Bay family had suffered heavy losses and suffered a great blow to their vitality. If those thousands of hostages were killed as well, then his branch would basically be finished. The hostages are all with the King of the East, Bei Luan reported. According to the intelligence, the King of the East should have left the celestial region with 10 great perfection deities. The rest did not follow him. Logically speaking, the King of the East should be flying here. Does Kuan Mo know? Bei Xian asked again. I'm not sure if he knows. Bei Luan frowned. He probably doesn't know yet, or else he wouldn't be able to sit still. This time, the Kuan King city was destroyed, and the Kuan race lost millions. Millions? Bei Xian's eyelids twitched. He said, "Pass down my order. Seal off the news and the surrounding area. We cannot let Kuan Mo know for now." The Kuan race didn't have many clansmen, not as many as the Bei family. There were only 20 to 30 million of them, and now 10 million had died. If Kuan Mo knew, wouldn't he go berserk? Once Kuan Mo went berserk, he might kill his way back to the east. By then, the King of the East might have a chance to take advantage of him. Because the King of the East had no clansmen and only one son. Even if Kuan Mo killed all the martial artists in the East, he wouldn't feel the pinch. The King of the East could easily set up a trap and might have a chance to kill Kuan Mo. Once Kuan Mo died, the King of the South and the King of the West would retreat immediately. He would also have to face the furious old sky-swallowing beast alone. By then, he would definitely die. Therefore, he couldn't let Kuan Mo know what happened in the Kuan King city for now. It wouldn't be too late to report when the King of the East arrived. Go and investigate. We must make sure that the King of the East has left the celestial realm at all costs. Bei Xian ordered again. Also, set up a large number of divine glyphs nearby. There's only one purpose, to send a warning. Bei Xian had calmed down from his rage. Now that things had come to this, there was no point in being sad. The King of the East had taken hostages, and it was very likely that he would come here. Exchanging hostages for hostages? He didn't care. So be it. After exchanging hostages, he and Kuan Mo, the King of the South, and the King of the West would attack together and kill the King of the East. Wouldn't Lu Xiaobai die then? The King of the East was coming. Bei Xian had a premonition that the King of the East would definitely come here, and his speed wouldn't be too slow. He estimated that he would arrive in at most 2 to 3 months. A great battle was about to break out. Whether he lived or died depended on the next battle. He didn't have time to be sad, and he didn't have time to think about the North King City. He had to go all out to set up and win this battle. The King of the East had left. He left through the exit of the East openly. Many scouts from the major clans had seen it. After the King of the East left, the major forces of the celestial realm immediately began to move. The scouts and spies in the chaotic sky star domain and the sky universe star domain all received the message. They gathered more scouts at all costs to keep abreast of the latest situation and report any news as soon as possible. Those scouts and spies began to move. They used threats and promises to bribe some of the smaller forces or the elders of the major forces to do things for them. Many forces in the chaotic sky star domain and the sky universe star domain began to move, transmitting the situation of both sides back to the celestial realm. Soon, the major clans' gazes were locked on the sky universe star domain and the ancient Rhino realm. They all knew that the next earth-shattering battle might erupt near the ancient Rhino realm. The rhinoceros ape race panicked. Because countless scouts from the major forces of the celestial realm had come looking for them, asking them to investigate the situation of the ancient Rhino realm. The names that were reported had scared the rhinoceros ape race king so much that his legs went soft. The other realm king clans had also sent representatives to ask them to cooperate. Luli, this bastard. The rhinoceros ape race king gritted his teeth and cursed. When the immortals fought, he would suffer as well. He couldn't afford to offend any of the big shots of the celestial realm. The 3 realm kings were going to start a war. They didn't fight in the celestial realm, but in their territory. What was going on? If they didn't handle this well, their race might be annihilated. The rhinoceros ape race king even had the urge to run away with the entire race. Remember the mobile website. Chapter 37:25. Lu Li's body had recovered. After a period of cultivation, his self-healing ability was restored. When he could move again, Lu Li took out some elixirs and his body was fully recovered. The first thing Lu Li wanted to do after he recovered was to take out his almighty artifact to check the situation outside. But he refrained from doing so. It was not that he didn't care about his family, and he wasn't afraid that something might happen to them. It was just that he didn't have the courage to check. He was afraid that if he investigated, his entire family would be killed. At that time, he would probably go crazy, and his mental state would explode, and he would collapse. Because of this fear, he didn't dare to check. He could not go out now. Even if he did, he couldn't leave the ice harem. He suspected that Bei Xian and Kuan Mo were still out there. Even if they weren't, they must be hiding somewhere, waiting for him to come out. He didn't want to check. He still had a thought that could support him to move on. Once he found out that something happened to his family, his mentality would change. If he couldn't leave, he would become a lunatic. Another reason was that he wanted to learn the origin law of ice and snow. If he could master this law, his abilities would soar. He might not be a match for Kuan Mo and Bei Xian yet, but he could fight them. By then, he would be able to leave. If his family was killed, he could think of a way to get revenge. He forced himself to forget everything outside. When his body was fully recovered, he began to run around. He sped up to the top of his speed. He wanted to find the exit and the source of the cold air. He wanted to find traces of the origin law of ice and snow and find an opportunity to learn it. As he walked on, Lu Li's eyes became misty again. His mind became muddled. Once again, he returned to the state when he first entered this world of ice and snow. What was different was that he was not afraid of the cold anymore. After learning the profound meaning, he was not afraid of any coldness. Since he was not afraid of the cold, his speed was not affected. He ran on. There seemed to be no end to this place. Lu Li had been running in a straight line. At this speed, he could reach the end of a small world in no time under normal circumstances. However, he had been running for such a long time here and nothing had changed. There was always the howling of cold wind and the sky was covered with snow. It was always hazy. There was always a thick layer of ice under his feet, never changing. As Lu Li walked on, he became more and more confused. He was like a trapped walking puppet, running forward with no sense of exhaustion and no sense of return. Kuan Mo didn't receive the news. He was in the Ice Queen Palace in another world. The Kuan race had ways to contact him, but now they couldn't. Kuan Mo didn't think that the Kuan race would be attacked. If they attacked the Kuan race, they would completely anger him. At that time, it would be a battle to the death. In the entire immortal domain, no great clan could endure his crazy revenge. Therefore, Kuan Mo didn't think in that direction at all. He was now waiting for the king of the eastern region to find him. Then, he would cooperate with Bei Xian, the king of the southern region, and the king of the western region to kill the old heaven-swallowing beast. In the end, they would kill Lu Li and get their hands on the Overgod artifact. That would be the end of the matter. Once this was done, the Kuan region would be safe for a while. Therefore, Kuan Mo was very concerned about this matter. He treated this matter as his own. It concerned the Kuan race's long-term prosperity and prosperity. How could he not do his best? He focused on deciphering the sacred glyph. He didn't care about what happened outside. Bei Xian would definitely take care of it. When the king of the eastern region came, Bei Xian would definitely inform him immediately. Bei Xian couldn't handle it himself. If he didn't inform him, Bei Xian would die. He believed that Bei Xian would take care of it. Bei Xian had to kill the king of the eastern region. Otherwise, Bei Xian would die. Outside, Bei Xian was indeed making careful arrangements. He had received accurate news that the king of the eastern region had left the immortal domain. Naturally, his target was here. He had arranged for many scouts to stand guard at the entrance to the Tianyu galaxy. Battleships couldn't enter the entrance. The king of the eastern region couldn't have flown all the way here, right? Therefore, he would definitely enter and exit the battleship. When that happened, he might be discovered. Of course, that arrangement was just a test of luck. The chances of being discovered were not high. The king of the eastern region was shrewd. Back when he went to the Origin realm, the king of the eastern region's tactics were already very strong. He wouldn't charge and attack like other immortal beasts. He had fought his whole life. He didn't just rely on his combat power, but also his battle intelligence. The perfection stage experts from the Bei family were slightly faster. Bei Xian had already sent a message to them, telling them to split up after entering the Tianyu galaxy. They had to find a way to lock onto the king of the eastern region's whereabouts. Only by knowing yourself and your enemy could you win 100 battles. The king of the eastern region was too famous. He had experienced tens of thousands of battles in his life and rarely lost. A person's reputation was like a tree's bark. Bei Xian had no choice but to be careful. Time passed quickly. More than a month had passed. As time went by, the atmosphere in the Tianyu galaxy became more and more tense. Although the major forces weren't very clear about what was going on, they all felt that something big was about to happen. The major forces in the immortal domain might also surge into the Tianyu galaxy. This place might become a battlefield. Especially the Rhino Ape race, the Glass Clan, the Water Fish Palace, and the other major forces nearby. They were even more terrified. They were afraid that this battle would destroy them. All the major forces began to prepare their escape route. They dispersed their clansmen and hid to avoid being wiped out. The perfection stage experts of the major forces all went into hiding. They were afraid that if the major forces in the immortal domain asked them to join the battle, they would have no choice but to obey. They would die without knowing why. Anyway, if they were only asked to mobilize scouts to gather intelligence, the elders could do it. They didn't need to take the lead. When the immortals fought, mortals like them didn't want to be implicated. The best way was to run. Anyway, the major forces in the immortal domain needed them. They couldn't just kill them, right? When the perfection stage experts ran, the perfection stage experts of the other major forces panicked. The two major forces in the immortal domain were at war. If one side asked them to help, would they help? If they didn't help, it would mean that they didn't give them face. If they weren't careful, their clansmen would be wiped out. Therefore, many perfection stage experts simply ran away. They either said that they were going to a dangerous place or that they were going to a secret realm that no one knew about for seclusion. He's here. After another month, Bei Xian suddenly received news that the king of the eastern region had entered the Sky Universe Star region. He brought along 10 great perfection deities and swaggered in. Then, he boarded a specter ship and flew towards the ancient Rhino realm. It's good that he's here. Bei Xian took a deep breath. He entered the Ice River Valley in a flash and then entered the Ice Queen Palace. He found Kuan Mo and reported, Elder Kuan, the old heaven-swallowing beast, has entered the Tianyu galaxy. If he's fast, he'll arrive in a few days. If he's slow, he might arrive in half a month. Okay, Kuan Mo nodded and said, all right, I'll go with you. Wait for him outside. I'm afraid that if I'm not by your side, I'll be killed by the old heaven-swallowing beast. Thank you, Elder Kuan. Bei Xian revealed a trace of awkwardness. Kuan Mo was speaking the truth. If he was alone outside, The king of the southern region and the king of the western region wouldn't dare to show up. If the king of the eastern region suddenly attacked, he would definitely die. Chapter 37:26. Many scouts had come to the ancient Rhino realm. There were probably more than 1,000,000 of them. Most of them were from the major forces of the Tianyu galaxy. These forces were all mobilized by the celestial region. They all came here without a care for their lives, trying to get the latest information. The law did not punish the masses. Bei Xian couldn't kill all the scouts with so many scouts here. That would offend the major forces of the Tianyu galaxy. If these forces secretly sabotaged them or helped the King of the East, they would be at a disadvantage. After all, they were the local tyrant. Anyway, there were countless ruins nearby. It would be difficult for the scouts to come in. Also, there were warriors at the consummate level in every direction. It was impossible for them to sneak in. They could only scout from afar. Bei Xian and Kuan-Mo were in the cave. The rocks in the cave were as hard as 10,000-year-old cold iron. Even the king of the eastern region wouldn't be able to break through it easily. It would take time. Such a huge wave couldn't possibly escape from Bei Xian and Kuan-Mo. They sat cross-legged at the place with the cold pond. Beside them were Gang Yu and Tong Sun. Lu Xiaobai was suppressed here. The injuries on his body had healed some time ago, but Gang Yu and Tong Sun had shattered Xiaobei again. Gang Yu and Tong Sun hated Lu Li to the core. They couldn't get back at Lu Li, so they could only attack Little White. Little White's bones were broken twice. Its white fur had turned red. Much of it had fallen off. It was like a cat that had fallen into boiling water. It was a tragic sight. It had been suppressed all this time and couldn't turn into a human. It could only exist in its original form. Bei Xian and Kuan-Mo had been sitting there, waiting for the King of the East to come. Everything had been arranged. No matter how the King of the East came, his ultimate goal was to rescue Lu Xiaobai. As long as Lu Xiaobai was watched, everything else would be fine. The King of the East would come sooner or later. Little White was suppressed on the ground and couldn't move at all. His eyes were filled with anger and uneasiness. He knew very well that Bei Xian had only one reason for suppressing him here, to lure his father here. Since Bei Xian had the guts to lure his father here, he must have full confidence. He must have strong arrangements. He didn't know Kuan-Mo, but he could feel his power. His aura was as oppressive as his father's. He was definitely a super warrior. He had vaguely guessed Kuan-Mo's identity, but he wasn't sure, because there were only so many peerless experts in the immortal region, and there were only a few that his father couldn't afford to offend. After Kuan-Mo came out, he didn't receive any news from the Kuan race. Perhaps he had waited for a long time, but the Kuan race didn't respond to him, so he gave up. Time passed day by day, and in the blink of an eye, 10 days had passed. The King of the Eastern region and the others still hadn't entered the interface, nor did they use the teleportation array to come over. This was because ordinary martial artists wouldn't be able to detect them on the Spectre ship. Great perfection paragons wouldn't be able to follow them all the way. Which great perfection paragons would dare to follow them? Wouldn't that be sending himself to death? With the King of the East's temper, anyone who dared to follow him would die. The Tianyu star field had mobilized at least tens of millions of scouts, but no one was able to track the King of the Eastern region's whereabouts. Bei Xian did not panic. Anyway, he just had to wait here. What other tricks could the King of the Eastern region play? He simply ordered all of the great perfection deities to gather here so that he could do it openly. If the King of the Eastern region wanted to save his son, he could only come to the Ice River Valley. Any other tricks would be useless. A few days later, all of the great perfection paragons had been teleported over. More than 20 great perfection paragons from the northern region had arrived. In addition to Gang Yu, Jin Yen, and the others, there were a total of 40 great perfection paragons. This was a very powerful force. The king of the eastern region only had 20 great perfection paragons, which was half the number of Bei Xian's side. In addition to the king of the western region and the king of the northern region who were hiding, the overall strength of this side was much stronger than the king of the eastern region's side. If they still couldn't win, then Bei Xian should just kill himself in the ice harem. During this time, Bei Xian had even thought about one thing. If the king of the eastern region didn't change the hostages, he would rather give up on the Bei family's martial artists. If they died, then so be it. He still had 3 sons, so he could marry more wives and have more children. If it really didn't work, he could personally go into battle. Of course, Kun Mo definitely wouldn't be willing to do that. It would be a troublesome matter. He was hesitating now. Should he tell Kun Mo about the king of the eastern region's attack? Otherwise, if Kun Mo found out, Kun Mo might fly into a rage and say that he hid this matter from him. In the end, Bei Xian decided not to say it first. He would wait until the king of the eastern region was near the ancient Rhino realm. At that time, even if Kun Mo went berserk, he definitely wouldn't be too far away. He would directly find the king of the eastern region. Bei Xian could coordinate from the side and still kill the king of the eastern region. Time continued to pass. Another 5 days passed. Bei Luan suddenly flew in. He bowed and said, "Tribe King, he's here. The old heaven-swallowing beast is here. He's just outside the ancient Rhino realm. Old Ghost Yun and the rest have also appeared. They're all outside. There's a total of 21 great perfection paragons." Good! Bei Luan was relieved. It was a good thing that the king of the eastern region had appeared openly. He came here openly. What was there to be afraid of when the strong had the absolute advantage? He waved his hand and said, "Pay close attention and act according to the original plan. Spread the word that without my orders, no one is allowed to leave the vicinity." Yes. Bei Luan went out. Bei Xian's eyes shone brightly. He was extremely excited. He closed his eyes and used the power of heaven and earth to sense. He vaguely sensed 2 very weak yet familiar auras. He contacted these 2 auras and sent 2 thoughts over. Very good. The king of the southern region and the king of the western region responded. Bei Xian's confidence was instantly boosted. The 2 great realm kings responded and expressed that they would cooperate. Although they said this, the meaning was still very clear. They would act according to the circumstances. It meant that, if there was a good opportunity and they had enough confidence, they would make a move. If there wasn't enough confidence, they would continue to hide. Swish. More than 2 hours later, Bei Luan came in again and reported, "Tribe King, the king of the eastern region has entered the ancient Rhino realm. However, he didn't fly here directly. Instead, he went to the Rhino city that is 1,000,000 miles away." "Why did he go there?" Bei Xian said in a daze. "Have you arranged for scouts to investigate?" "It has already been arranged. There are scouts in the open and in the dark. There are also scouts from the Rhino ape race." Bei Luan replied, "At most 2 hours there will be news from there. We have arranged for at least tens of thousands of scouts from the Rhino ape race to investigate. Don't worry, they won't be able to get rid of so many scouts." "Alright." Bei Xian took out the map and looked at it. The Rhino city was just nearby, and it was just a small city. What was the point of staying in this small city? Since the king of the eastern region came here openly, why didn't he directly come to the Ice River Valley? The old heaven-swallowing beast must have made some arrangements. Bei Xian was secretly vigilant. The king of the eastern region must have guessed the situation here and didn't come rashly. Since he stayed there, he must have a purpose. Now, Bei Xian just didn't know what he was up to. More than 2 hours later, Bei Luan came in again. This time, his expression was very ugly. He took a look at Kun Mo and then at Bei Xian. He wanted to say something but hesitated. Bei Xian understood and sent a voice transmission. What's the situation? Just as Bei Luan was about to send a voice transmission, Kuan Mo, who had been sitting cross-legged with his eyes closed, said, What's the situation? Don't be sneaky. Just say it. Bei Luan took a look at Bei Xian. The latter was expressionless and nodded slightly. Bei Luan smiled bitterly and said, reporting to the two realm kings. The king of the eastern region is in the nearby Rhino City. He has nailed our clansmen on the city wall. He wants the two realm kings to go over. However, if you go, you have to kill 10 of them in 5 minutes. Chapter 37:27 Clansmen of the Two Races? Kuan Mo blinked and then narrowed his eyes. A faintly discernible murderous aura was released from his body. He pursed his lips slightly and asked, Speak clearly. Elder Kuan, don't be angry. Bei Xian continued, There is a piece of news that I didn't tell you because I was afraid that you would be angry and unable to control yourself. Some time ago, the eastern region sent many perfected ones to attack Bei King City and Kuan King City. Then, the king cities of both races were destroyed. There were countless casualties, and the direct descendants of both races were captured. At that time, I was afraid that if I told you, you wouldn't be able to resist seeking revenge on the king of the eastern region. The king of the eastern region would immediately rush over after capturing the hostages, so I didn't tell you the news. Kuan King City was destroyed? Kuan Mo's eyes turned cold, and then he immediately asked, How many of my Kuan race's clansmen died? I don't know the specifics. Bei Xian touched his nose and said, Probably close to 10 million. My race lost even more, at least tens of millions. Very good. Kuan Mo's murderous aura suddenly surged out, causing Gang Yu and the others inside to feel their souls tremble. Kuan Mo was too strong. Gang Yu and the others weren't on the same level at all. Kuan Mo suddenly stood up and walked outside. He said coldly, Let's go to Rhinoceros City. This old man wants to twist that old heaven-swallowing beast's head off. Elder Kuan, Bei Xian advised, the old heaven-swallowing beast didn't come here but set up over there. This is obviously a premeditated plan to lure us over. Maybe there is an ambush over there? Why don't we investigate it first? Investigate what? Kuan Mo's cold eyes swept across and said, You don't want your clansmen, but this seat wants them. Didn't you call the king of the southern region and the king of the western region? 4 realm kings are afraid of an immortal beast? The longer you live, the more timid you become. Let's go. With that, Kuan Mo strode outside. Bei Xian had no choice but to wave his hand and say, Bei Luan, bring Lu Xiaobai along. The 3 of you are to watch him. If anything goes wrong, kill Lu Xiaobai first. A group of experts flew out. Balin held Whitey in her hand. Balin released her origin divine power to suppress Whitey. She also aggravated Whitey's injuries. Not to mention attacking, Whitey couldn't even move. It couldn't even whimper. The moment Bei Xian and the others came out, Balin waved his hand and said, Everyone, gather. Whoosh, 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 one by one, the great perfection deities appeared. Kuan Mo's side had already flown towards the north without a care in the world. Bei Xian glanced at them and said helplessly, Leave one great perfection deity behind. The rest of you follow. The group of great perfection deities immediately followed suit. In total, there were about 40 great perfection deities, and they flew toward the north in a mighty formation. Only one great perfection deity was left to guard the hostages of Lu Meng's Grim Reaper. Bei Xian thought about it and said, If things go wrong, kill all the hostages. Leave no one alive. The hostages were useless now, but they were related to Lu Li. If things went wrong, he wouldn't want the warriors to run away. He didn't mind killing them all. The great perfection deity that stayed behind nodded. He wanted to take action now. The hostages were useless. The master of the eastern region was about to be killed. What else could Lu Li care about? Dozens of great perfection deities flew over. The master of the northern region, western region, and southern region communicated secretly. The other two responded and said that they would follow secretly. The two were cunning. They wouldn't act until they saw the rabbit. If it weren't for the fact that Kuan Mo flew out, they wouldn't have gone to Shiyang City. Shiyang City was not very lively. All the warriors in the city had been driven out. None were left. Those that didn't run were all dead. The city was covered in blood. Lord Yun and the others came and stood on the city wall. There was a line of warriors on the city wall. They were all nailed to the city wall by a special kind of bone spear. Their origin energy was sealed. The bone spear also had a strange power that restrained them. They couldn't move. There were men and women, young and old. All of them had their chests nailed by the bone spear. Blood flowed out from the chests of all the warriors. Many children were in pain, but they didn't dare to cry. There were at least tens of thousands of people of the Shell race and the Kuan race. They were all nailed to the city wall. Blood flowed down the wall. It was a miserable sight. The king of the eastern region didn't hide himself and stood on the city wall. The other 20 great perfection deities were also on the city wall, looking at the four sides of the city wall. All of the great perfection deities held supreme divine weapons or various treasures in their hands. There were also weapons in the hands of great perfection deities that lit up with various kinds of light. This was the release of divine power. Whoosh from the south, many black dots flew over. Before they got close, they felt a surge of powerful qi and energy. It was as if dark clouds were pressing down on the city. It was also as if a storm was about to sweep over. Many divine consciousnesses swept over. They scanned the warriors on the city wall and finally landed on the master of the eastern region. Kuan Mo flew at the front. His gray hair danced in the wind. His eyes were sharp and cold like two knives. He didn't take out his weapon. He just stood in the air. He didn't fly over in a hurry. Instead, he stood in the air and looked at the master of the eastern region coldly. Sky-swallowing beast, what is the meaning of this? The master of the eastern region stood with his hands behind his back. He looked calm and emotionless. He said, "Nothing. You captured my child and I captured your people. That's all. That was Bei Xian's doing. What does it have to do with me?" Kuan Mo looked angry. He waved his hand and said, "Let go of my people first." The master of the eastern region was still emotionless. He didn't even look at Little White. Instead, Lord Yun and the others looked at Lu Xiaobai, who was covered in blood. Their eyes were filled with anger and murderous intent. In their hearts, Whitey was their little master, and also the future hope of the eastern region. He was just like their nephew. The king of the eastern region said indifferently, "Kuan Mo, don't talk about these useless things. If you weren't colluding with Bei Xian, would you still be here?" Kuan Mo's eyes flickered. He hesitated for a moment before saying, "What do you want for my people to be released? State your conditions." "Very simple." The king of the east said, "Release Xiaobai first. This king will release half of the hostages. Then, when we leave the Sky Universe Starfield, the other half will be released." Kuan Mo didn't even think about it. He looked at Bei Xian and said, "What do you say?" Bei Xian was a little hesitant. In his mind, he was willing to kill the king of the eastern region even if all his clansmen died. This was a rare opportunity. With the 4 realm kings gathered together, there wouldn't be such a good opportunity next time. Once the king of the eastern region escaped, it would be like releasing a tiger back into the mountains. If the king of the eastern region escaped with his son and abandoned the eastern region, who could stop him? By then, the entire Bei family would be finished, and he would be killed by the king of the eastern region. But in such a situation, what could he do? Should he say no? There were many of his clansmen on the city wall. Although Kuan Mo was asking for his opinion, he already had an idea. He pondered for a moment and said, "Exchanging hostages is one thing. I want to ask, how are we going to settle the matter of killing so many of our clansmen?" How are we going to settle it?" The king of the eastern region sneered and said, "You want to deal with me, but you won't let me vent my anger? After exchanging hostages, you can play however you want. I will accompany you to the end." Third sect leader. Chapter 37-28. Powerhouses all wanted face, and they also had a temper. Bei Xian and Kuan Mo worked together to deal with him, and even captured his son. This made him very angry, so he destroyed North King City and Kuan King City and slaughtered many of their clansmen to vent his anger. This was the explanation given by the king of the eastern region. This explanation nearly caused Kuan Mo and Bei Xian to explode in anger. They were also very angry now, but they had no way to slaughter the clansmen of the king of the eastern region. This was because the heaven-swallowing beast only had one son and no clansmen. In reality, many martial artists in the immortal domain had a question. How did a heaven-swallowing beast give birth to a little heaven-swallowing beast? Because there were only 2 heaven-devouring beasts in the entire immortal region. Without a female heaven-devouring beast, how could the king of the eastern region give birth to offspring? Was he a hermaphrodite? Or could it be that the heaven-devouring beast had found other immortal beasts to breed? However, if they were not of the same race, the bloodline of the offspring would be impure, and the offspring might not even be heaven-devouring beasts. None of the mighty ones in the celestial region could figure it out, nor did they know the reason behind it. Even many of the great clans in the eastern region did not know about it. Perhaps only Lord Yun and a few other perfected deities knew about it. These things were not important, so Kuan Mo and the others did not think too much about it. He and Bei Xian exchanged glances and felt a little conflicted. The most difficult thing about the king of the eastern region was that he didn't have any clansmen, and he probably didn't care about the lives of the various clans in the eastern region. Immortal beasts were cold-blooded. Once the hostages were exchanged, the king of the eastern region took his son and fled far away to hide, constantly assassinating their clansmen. He wouldn't be able to live for long anyway, so even if they managed to kill the king of the eastern region, there wouldn't be many clansmen left in the end. Kuan Mo was about to die. Why did he put down his pride and come with Bei Xian to deal with the king of the east? Wasn't it all for his clansmen? For the sake of his clan's prosperity after his death. Now that he had done this, his entire race was about to be annihilated. Wasn't he going for wool and coming home shorn? Bei Xian's head hurt even more. He was afraid of death. If the king of the eastern region escaped, he might not have a chance to kill him. If the king of the eastern region found an opportunity, it would be his death. He wasn't worried about his clan. As long as he was alive, and as long as he wasn't completely exterminated, he could lead his clan to prosperity and become stronger in the next few 100,000 years. Fight. Once they made their move, Lord Yun and the other masters would kill all the hostages from the 2 clans in an instant. A full Paragon-level master could kill tens of thousands of ordinary martial artists in the blink of an eye. There was no way to save them. If he didn't make a move, then he could only change the hostage. Elder Kuan, how about this? You say that you want to use Lu Xiaobai to exchange for all of your clansmen. As long as your clansmen are saved, directly attack and ignore my clansmen. Bei Xian finally made up his mind. If Kuan Mo's clansmen weren't saved, Kuan Mo wouldn't make a move. As long as the Kuan race's martial artists were swapped over, Kuan Mo would be able to attack without restraint, and the king of the eastern region would not be able to escape. Kuan Mo looked at Bei Xian in shock. Then, he became a little angry. He scolded, Bei Xian, what are you thinking? Come up with a plan, stop wasting time. Xiao. After Kuan Mo finished speaking, His body suddenly flashed and appeared beside Beiluan. He grabbed Lu Xiaobai with one hand and stared at Beiluan at the same time. A soul-stirring light flashed and Beiluan was stunned. His hand loosened and Kuan Mo grabbed Xiaobai. Bei Xian knew what Kuan Mo meant. He gave a look, and the group of full paragons didn't dare to move. Kuan Mo grabbed Xiaobai, looked at the king of the eastern region, and said, "I don't care about the Bei family's clansmen. Heaven-swallowing beast, let go of my clansmen, and I will immediately release your son. I also promise not to chase after you for 3 days. If you don't agree, your son will die immediately. I still have many clansmen, but you only have one son." The king of the eastern region still didn't look at Xiaobai. He stared at Kuan Mo and sneered. "All right, kill him. I will let your clansmen die with him. It's worth it." Kuan Mo and Bei Xian were speechless. Was the king of the eastern region so sure that they wouldn't dare to make a move, or was he really cold-blooded and heartless? They hesitated for a while, and the king of the eastern region spoke again. "You won't kill him, right? Then let's kill him. Old Yun." With the king of the eastern region's order, Lord Yun and the group of full paragons made their move. All kinds of weapons flashed, and heads flew and rolled down. In an instant, at least 100 people were killed, and they specifically targeted the young elite. "Stop!" The corner of Kuan Mo's mouth twitched. If these young descendants were killed, what would the Kuan race have left? The hostages that the king of the eastern region had captured were the strongest of the Kuan race's young generation. They were the Kuan race's future hope. If this hope was destroyed, the Kuan race would be finished. The king of the eastern region waved his hand. Kuan Mo took a deep breath, suppressed the anger in his heart, and said, "We'll do as you said. Release some of them first." Kuan Mo had already made up his mind. After his clansmen were safe, he would go all out to hunt down the king of the eastern region. He still had a few hundred years of lifespan left. In these few hundred years, he wouldn't do anything else but hunt down Kuan Mo. The king of the eastern region waved his hand domineeringly, and Lord Yun and the others took action. They pulled out the warriors from the city walls one by one and threw them over casually like throwing stones. Beiluan and the others hurried to catch them, catching them one by one. Then, they immediately stored them in their spatial divine items, as if they were afraid that the king of the eastern region would go back on his word. The king of the eastern region had captured more than 10,000 people. He was very generous and released 5,000 in one go. The Shell race and the Kuan race released more than 2,000 each. However, most of them were children and the elderly. Only a small portion of the young elites were released, and most of them were still nailed to the city walls. After releasing half of the hostages, the king of the eastern region looked over and said, "My sincerity is here. Kuan Mo, what about yours?" Kuan Mo was a little hesitant. He was afraid that the king of the eastern region would act recklessly after releasing Xiaobai. However, what could he do? Did he not want his clansmen anymore? Those who were left were all elite. The king of the eastern region was so straightforward. He released half of the hostages and kept his word. If he didn't release Xiaobai, then the rest of his clansmen would probably die. Forget it. It's just a small heaven-swallowing beast. Kuan Mo's eyes flashed and he made up his mind. The old heaven-swallowing beast was no match for him, and he still had to run for his life. He wouldn't dare to do anything rash, right? According to the previous agreement, the old heaven-swallowing beast would release all his clansmen after leaving the Tianyu galaxy. This meant that they would have to escape for more than 10 days. They shouldn't be able to go far in 10 days, right? He could still catch up with them if he chased them. Buzz, a few beams of weak light appeared in his hand. Lu Xiaobai, who was in his hand, trembled. He was obviously in great pain. Kuan Mo must have done something secretly. He threw Xiaobai to the side and Lord Yun immediately flew out and caught Xiaobai. Lord Yun checked and looked at Kuan Mo viciously. He said, Koinemo, you are a realm king. Is it fun to use such a sneaky trick? Koinemo smiled and didn't speak. The king of the eastern region finally looked at Xiaobai. He said, "Do you know the consequences of being impulsive? Use your brain more in the future. Your father is not invincible and can't protect you all the time. You still have to rely on yourself. Old Yun, take him away." Xiaobai looked at the king of the eastern region with a wronged expression. There was a strange energy in his body. He couldn't bear the pain, but he didn't dare to cry out. Lord Yun looked at the king of the eastern region deeply. Then he bowed and left with Lu Xiaobai. Koinemo and Bei Xian looked at each other. The old heaven-swallowing beast didn't leave with his son. Was he going to bring up the rear and let his son leave first? Koinemo and Bei Xian didn't say anything. They just waited quietly for the king of the eastern region to leave. Soon, half a day had passed. A jade talisman on the waist of the king of the eastern region broke. A saber appeared in his hand. He raised it slowly and pointed it at Koinemo. He said calmly, "Koinemo, I was seriously injured by you back then. I have always felt ashamed. Today, I will wash away this shame. Attack." Boom! As soon as the king of the eastern region finished speaking, the great perfection deities standing on the city wall all attacked. The heads of the thousands of warriors of the Shell race and the Kuan race exploded. They all died instantly. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.